Welcome into the Steelers Talk Live Show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. We kick off Week 9 here in Steelers Nation with a bunch of great Steelers coverage for you guys over the next hour or so. First up, it is Tomlin Tuesday in Steelers Nation, which means we got the latest news and rumors updates from the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had some very concerning comments on the defense, in my opinion, today. I'll break down my thoughts on that. But also a vast array of different kinds of news today. We got a big injury update on DeShon Elliott that we'll talk about at the top of news and rumors today. Also, is Marquez Valdes-Scantling signing with the Steelers or not? We'll discuss that, kind of the weird news regarding MVS. And then we'll talk about a sneaky signing that the Steelers made today that I think could be, a real boost to the Steelers defense moving forward in the secondary. And then we'll have our extensive weekly preview this week for Week 9 versus the Indianapolis Colts. My score prediction, my keys to victory, scouting report on Daniel Jones, the whole works. It's coming up later in today's show, so make sure you stick around for the entire Steelers Talk Live show today. And make sure you guys spam those me's down there in the comments section. We already got 73 people watching live. And I want to see who's in here right now. I want to see who the real ones are. I already see Rad Doctor put in a $10 super chat. We got Grayson Walter in here. We got The Only Key. We've got Czar Craig. We've got Eugene Payne, Tristan White. We've got Austin. We've got my lovely fiance, Cassie Voth. Everyone say hi to Cassie in the chat for me. We got Glenn, Ali the Reaper, Rad Doctor, Steelers Fan 151, Glenn, Lindsay. We've got Darren. We've got Dune. We've got Keith, Dave P., we got Darren, Eugene Payne. We got a good crew, man. Ready to talk some Steelers football here on a Tomlin Tuesday. And with that, let's bring in our producer. Mr. Ponzi is here. And Ponzi, what is your preferred but realistic safety duo for this football team after the DeShon Elliott injury? Now, the update we got today from Mike Tomlin, a very positive one, is that DeShon Elliott is probably going to be able to come back at some point this year. Now, he's got a hyperextended knee. He's going to be out for the foreseeable future here. He might be out a month or maybe more, but it sounds like by the end of the season, he will be able to come back, which is extremely good news. But Ponzi, while Elliott is out, what should be the starting duo here in Pittsburgh?
I mean, I definitely don't want Chuck Clark on the field.
Yeah.
That's the one
Fuck
thing.
Chuck Clark, man.
But, I mean, I would want to see a combination of Jabril Peppers.
Oh, man, we got Mike Nintendo Master in here. What's up, Mike? Good to see you, pal.
Jabril Peppers, maybe get some Jalen Ramsey in there. But, I mean, I'd rather much have Jalen Ramsey stick to his position right now. I think just getting Jabril Peppers and getting, why am I blanking? Juan Thornhill out there. I think that's a good safety duo out there. I just think that, you have already your insurance of DeShon Elliott and Jabril Peppers. Why do you not have him on the field?
Exactly.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. A lot of people are throwing out C.J. Gardner-Johnson and then moving Jalen Ramsey up to that safety spot. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's a great player, especially with the attitude and authority he brings to the safety position, or to really that big nickel spot. But, I mean, I think that they could go a multitude of ways, but overall, I think they're probably going to stay in-house.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. I think this week, I'm going to let you guys know what I think they should do this week, because I think the plan for this week with Tyler Warren come to town and the Indianapolis Colts, I think it should be different this week than what I think the long-term plan should be. In short, I think Ramsey should play safety this week to be able to cover up Tyler Warren, but then go back to nickel in the weeks to come. And, they did sign Derek Forrest today. We're going to talk about Derek Forrest on today's show. I like him a lot, man. I liked him coming out of Cincinnati. He is a playmaker. He has good speed. He's a legit, true free safety. And, instead of Thornhill and Clark, guys that are older players that, that have lost maybe a little bit of a step, Derek Forrest is only 26, and he has come off a couple of injuries the last couple of seasons. He's had some bad injury luck. But in terms of a mid-season free agency signing that you're adding to your defense in Week 9, I don't think he's going to be able to have a helmet this week. He's going to have to get ramped up. I think the first time we see him would be in the Charger game potentially in Week 10 on Sunday Night Football. But Derek Forrest is somebody that I think could potentially finish this season, Ponzi, as this team's starting free safety. I think that I think he's a ball hawk. I think he's a playmaker. I think he's got the speed to be able to make plays out there at the free safety alignment. I think he fits the Pittsburgh Steelers DNA, man. He reminds me He reminds me a lot of DeShon Elliott, actually, in the way that he's around the football a lot. There's just certain guys that are around the football a lot and have really great instincts. And I think that Derek Forrest is somebody that fits that description for me. So I really like that signing. I'll go more in depth in our first segment here today. Mike Nintendo Master says, Jack, I want you to know I think you're a great host. Well, I appreciate that, Mike, but number 16, man, I mean, I guess
I'm happy with my ranking.
I guess I got to pick up my game here a little bit, man. I got to, I want to be pushed, Mike. I want to be pushed, all right? So thank you for giving me a little bit of extra motivation, but I appreciate you here today, Mike Nintendo Master. He asked a question here. He says, should the Steelers make a trade? If the trade, comes up and, that makes sense for the team, then yes, they should. If you can get a good player at a really good price tag, that can make specifically your defense better, I think you should absolutely do it. Maybe if you get a really good deal on Jacoby Myers or Calvin Ridley, if you get a really good value for those guys, maybe you think about pulling the trigger on a wide receiver trade, because right now MVS is not on the roster. He has not been signed, and according to a report today, he's not expected to sign until next week. So just a weird situation with MVS. We got multiple super chats that are coming in here. We'll make sure to get to those supers here in just a moment. But if you guys want to get on the show today, you guys can super chat if you want. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if you want to ask me and Ponzi a question directly that you want us to answer on today's show, if you want to vent on Mike Tomlin or Taylor Austin or this team in general, feel free to send in your rants, and we'll be happy to react to it. But we got some super chats here to get to right away. We got Rad Doctor with a 10. Shout out to Rad Doctor with that $10 super chat. He put in another 5, and he says we need to stop selling our seats to visiting team fans. Too many cheeseheads at the last game. Yeah, those Packer fans, man, they travel well, and I have a lot of respect for Packer fans. And, when the Steelers obviously were getting their butts kicked, those fans were pretty loud at Acrisure Stadium last Sunday night. As a nation here, we shouldn't be allowing that to happen.
No.
$2 from the guy that's always in here putting in his $2 super chats. Bernard says, how do y'all grade A-Rod so far? I think right now, if based on the expectations that the Steelers had for him this year, I would give him an A. In terms of what they've asked him to do, I think he's met the expectations and then some. All right, and I think you could say the same thing for the offense. I think the offense has exceeded expectations this year. Now, obviously, the defense has severely underperformed expectations, which is why you're sitting at 4-3 with a chance to fall to 3 straight losses and all the way down to 500 after starting the season 4-1 if you lose to the Colts this weekend. But I think Aaron Rodgers certainly isn't the problem, man. He's been absolutely terrific. Has he been perfect? No. Is he an MVP caliber quarterback? I wouldn't say he's quite at that level anymore. I still think he's a good franchise caliber quarterback. I'd put him in my tier 3 of quarterbacks right now. I have elite superstars, bona fide stars as my second tier, and then legit franchise QBs. I would put Rodgers in that tier 3 because he can't really move. There's certain things that he can't do, but there's also a lot of things that he does at a really high level still. He still has incredible arm talent. Still has that fantastic pocket presence, some of the highest football IQ I have ever seen in my entire life. He's certainly up there with
still got a gun on him too.
He's still got a gun, man. So, I think that he's been very smart with the football. I think he's been pretty efficient. He's done a really good job so far, and, he's exceeded my expectations to this point. Darren Carroll with a 10, with a little peach flying through the air. Shout out to Darren for the $10 super chat. Bernard with another one says, Mike Tomlin threw A-Rod under the bus 3 times. Was he talking about that today?
I don't know. I guess so.
Because I'm trying to remember when he was trying to think he was talking about the offense and how they couldn't get out, or they had a tough time responding to the offsides call in the second half. And, I can't remember how many times he mentioned the offense, but I don't know if he was necessarily talking to Aaron Rodgers specifically, Bernard, unless I missed something in the press conference today. I think he was talking about the offense more generally. He says, do you think the offense was the problem on Sunday? No, it wasn't. It was part of the problem. I mean, part of the problem when you are getting dominated in the time of possession battle in that second half is the offense couldn't stay on the field. And, you had stupid penalties from DK Metcalf. You had stupid holding penalties, illegal shifts. You took sacks. Like, there was just too many negative plays that, There's just too many negative plays that put you behind the sticks and put you in situations where you weren't going to convert. I mean, they had 9 third and longs and then 6 third and very longs. Like, you're just not going to have success when that is the case. You got to stay ahead of the sticks, and that's certainly the case right now. $2 from Bernard Nixon says, "Do you think the offense?" Oh, never mind. That was the same one. F. Ponzi for making me think there was another one there. Okay, we have another one from Bernard. All right, so Darren again with a 3. Shout out to Darren. You got Hector with a 2. Says, "Do you actually think we can compete? Fire Tomlin." I think we can. I think it's possible, but again, it's a question of whether Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin figure out how to figure out this puzzle that is the Steelers defense and the personnel specifically and how to use these guys. If they just keep doing what they're doing, no, I don't think they can compete, Hector. All right, obviously they don't. They have not played like a Super Bowl caliber team because their defense is playing terribly. All right, they're probably a bottom 5, maybe, certainly bottom 10 defense in the league right now. And I think they have the talent to be able to be top 10, maybe even top 5. I truly believe they have the talent to play at that level. It's just I don't think that this unit has been particularly well coached, and I don't think the coaching staff and their defensive philosophy has put this team in positions to win. So hopefully they can compete moving forward, Hector. But right now, they certainly haven't done a good enough job at this point. Now, this week on Steelers Talk Live, we will be back live again on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for our second live show of the week. And then, of course, on Sunday, an hour of pregame coverage followed by live play-by-play and live analysis of the game itself. Then we have our extensive postgame coverage on the Steelers Talk Week 9 watch party. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. Join us on Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern because this is going to be a big one, man. Like this week's going to decide whether or not you're 2 games above 500 or whether you go back down to 500, and that's a big gap between winning and losing on Sunday. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button and join us on Sunday. And now we're going to get into our first segment of the day here, guys. The latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we'll get into our Week 9 preview versus the Indianapolis Colts. Lots of great stuff to talk about today. Can't wait to dive in with you guys. So without further ado, let's get into our first segment. Happy Tomlin Tuesday, Steelers Nation. We've got a whole slew of Steelers news and rumors to talk about on tonight's show. First up, a huge injury update for the Pittsburgh Steelers that you're not going to want to miss. Then Mike Tomlin took the podium today for Tomlin Tuesday in the south side of Pittsburgh, and he said, what about the Steelers defense? I'm going to react to that later in today's show. Then is Pittsburgh signing Marquez Valdes-Scantling or not? There's certainly, a little bit of gray area here. He has not signed with the team right now. Is he going to at all? Is he going to wait till next week? We'll break down the latest with MVS later in the show as well. And then make sure you stick around because the Steelers, I think, just made a very sneaky good signing of a player that I think could finish the season as a starting defensive player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So make sure you guys stick around to see who that sneaky good signing was. But before we get into the content today, I want to thank you guys so much for following me and supporting me on X. I just passed over 5,000 followers. So if you guys want to support me on that platform as well, I put out a lot of my reactions to breaking news stories on X when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers before I put videos out here on YouTube. So if you guys want my instant reactions and analysis to everything going on when the news is breaking, you guys can follow me at Jack_Sperry for more free Steelers analysis. I also put out my film analysis out there because I can't put it up here on YouTube. So if you guys want even more Steelers analysis from me, Jack Sperry, on X, you can find me at Jack_Sperry. So that big injury update that I alluded to in our opener here is that Mike Tomlin said today at his press conference that strong safety DeShon Elliott, who was previously feared to be lost for the season, is now considered quote-unquote week to week with a hyperextended knee. And the way that Tomlin was phrasing it, DeShon Elliott should be back before the end of the season this year, guys, and he will not be lost for the season. Yesterday, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN did report that the Steelers are quote-unquote bracing for DeShon Elliott to miss the rest of the season. And, that seemed, obviously an ESPN reporter is saying that. That seemed pretty darn legit. We even put out a video earlier today talking about replacements for DeShon Elliott. But this is obviously terrific news. DeShon is such a big part of this Steelers defense because they've used him in a lot of different ways. They put him in the box. Sometimes they put him in the slot. Of course, they rotate him a lot post-snap. He's a very intelligent player. He's always around the football, and he's a terrific tackler and run defender. And losing a player like that, even though he wasn't perfect versus Green Bay. Like I've had people on Twitter tell me, "Oh, he gave up that catch versus Tucker Kraft. It's a good thing, that he's not in the lineup." And it's just like absolutely ridiculous because DeShon Elliott is one of the best defensive players on the Steelers, period, and certainly one of the most impactful. So the fact that he's going to be back eventually is terrific news. And who knows how long it's going to be? It could be, a month. It could be, a month and a half. Who knows how long DeShon will actually be out and whether or not he hits the injured reserve in the days to come. But the fact that he's going to be back before the end of the season is terrific news for the short-term and long-term health of one of the Steelers' most important defensive players. Some more good news here on the injury front. It sounds like Isaac Seumalo's injury isn't that serious. He injured his pec last Sunday night versus the Green Bay Packers, and he's questionable to play this week. All right, so usually pec strains can keep people out for quite a while. Pat Surtain, for example, of the Denver Broncos, is out a month to a month and a half with a pec strain, which is similar to what Isaac is dealing with right now. But Isaac could play this weekend, so that's certainly good news to hear that Seumalo could play this weekend. If he doesn't play versus the Colts, my guess is he'd probably be ready to go for the Chargers game in 2 weeks. But the fact that this is going to be a short-term injury is really good news because that means that will open up Spencer Anderson once again to play that jumbo tight end look that we've seen from the Steelers and they've had a ton of success with. And then also I was waiting to hear from Mike Tomlin today with any word surrounding Corey Trice Jr. They still haven't activated his 21-day practice window as he's currently on IR. And I'm hoping that this week they do activate him and maybe they even put him on the game day roster because, Darius Slay is certainly on thin ice right now. And if he struggles versus the Colts, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to getting Corey Trice Jr. On the outside and get those avatar corners going where you got Joey Porter Jr. and Corey Trice Jr. Of course, they were in the same draft class. They're both very physical corners with long arms. And, the vision by drafting these two is that they're going to be able to play press man coverage together on either side of the defensive formation, and that vision could still be a possibility, especially if Darius Slay continues to struggle. But now we shift to Mike Tomlin and his thoughts on the Steelers' defense and what he had to say today, and I really didn't like what Coach T had to say, to be quite honest with you guys, about where he believes the Steelers' defense is at. And he said today that he doesn't see any quote-unquote dramatic changes being needed by this Steelers defense, despite, the struggles that we have seen this unit have over the course of the first few weeks of the season. This is what Mike Tomlin had to say about Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator in particular. I've known Terrell for a long time. He's very capable. He's very thorough. I've largely been pleased with his work, but certainly he and I are not pleased with where we are right now from a defensive unit perspective, so we're just going to keep working. On the defense in general, Tomlin said this: we certainly need to be better in third down than we've been, but it doesn't necessarily mean dramatic changes in terms of schematics and things of that nature. It's details that is usually the difference. We just got to keep doing what we're doing and do it better. And then when it comes to the quarterbacks that the Steelers have been facing, getting the ball out quickly versus the Steelers defense, this is what he had to say. I think that's been our life for a number of years. I think anytime you got dynamic rushers, I think that's the first way that you work to minimize them. I think that's everyone's agenda, to be quite honest with you, when they play us. It requires no quote-unquote adjustments. And, the fact that Tomlin's going up there saying we don't need to make adjustments, we have to keep doing what we're doing, there's not going to be any big changes or dramatic changes, I think is the phrase that he used there. Those comments are unacceptable to me, man. Like, you have to be going up there and saying we can't keep doing the same things if we're trying to get different results. I mean, the literal definition of insanity is that you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. And guys, there's a reason why quarterbacks are getting the ball out fast versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's not just because of the pass rush. That's certainly an element of it, and you better believe teams, when they game plan against the Steelers, want to get the ball out fast because the pass rush that the Pittsburgh Steelers have is super talented, but that's only half of the issue here. The other issue is that the Steelers are giving up way too much underneath and over the intermediate levels of the field, giving quick answers to quarterbacks without any pushback. They're playing off coverage, and they're playing to prevent the deep ball, but they're also sending extra people on blitzes, which, of course, limits the numbers that you have in coverage. And this is what Mike Tomlin had to say when he was asked directly about quarterbacks getting the ball out quickly versus the Steelers defense. There's a lot of answers to that. None of it is earth-shattering or interesting. You change up schematics, you play man, you play bogus zones, all of which we do. We just haven't been doing it well enough to minimize QBs getting the ball out fast versus our defense. Now, I think that this is complete bullshit because, a YouTuber like me can watch the film and know that, if you play off coverage from man and then you blitz, that's going to open up a lot of opportunities underneath. Like, yes, you are playing zone, or you are playing man, Mike Tomlin, but you're also playing a lot of off coverage when you play man, which opens up, guess what? The flats and the slants and the underneath shit that you've been giving away over the last several weeks, especially these last 2 weeks. And yes, they do play bogus zones, but when they play those bogus zones, their linebackers, their hook defenders, and their curl flat defenders, they usually defend the sticks. They don't play aggressively in the hard flats. They don't take away the underneath stuff that teams have been consistently just jamming down the Steelers' throats and have been allowed to just go right down the field time and time and time again. So the idea that Mike Tomlin, we're doing everything we can to take away the underneath routes, it's like, no, you're not. All right, that is a bullshit answer, in my opinion, and there are solutions to this problem, and to just, swat that question away, I think was disrespectful to the reporter that asked it, and I think, it points to the fact that this Steelers coaching staff, it does not have a full grasp on what the issues are with this Steelers defensive philosophy at this point in the season. So where are you guys at? Let me know down there in the comments section. What is your confidence level in the Steelers defensive coaching staff right now? Put it on a scale of 1, meaning no confidence whatsoever, to 10, meaning I have a ton of confidence. Right now, after these comments, guys, I got to give it like a 2 or a 3. And I've been a big Mike Tomlin fan throughout his career here in Pittsburgh. And, I'm starting to get to my wit's end when it comes to Coach T, specifically when it comes to defensive schematics. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, we're going to show you guys a little bit from our sponsor here, our new sponsor here in Steelers Talk, GLD. And while we do that, make sure you guys get your question to that question, or your answer to that question, down there in the comment section. All right, fellas, let's be real. Buying men's jewelry used to be an absolute nightmare. It was low-quality junk that snapped after a week, or it was insanely overpriced with ridiculous markups. That's why I rock with GLD. They've changed the game in men's jewelry. You're getting quality pieces that are built to last without breaking the bank. And unlike a lot of other companies, GLD only uses real gold. None of that cheap stuff. Every single stone is meticulously hand set. Plus, their proprietary production process makes sure you're getting the highest quality jewelry possible. You can literally see and feel the difference with GLD. And a big shout out to GLD for shipping me out here an awesome Steelers pennant. I actually wore it on the Steelers Talk watch party last week versus the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. I really love it, guys, and I think I'm going to be wearing it on every single watch party this year. And it's more than just Steelers, guys. You can get a bunch of different teams. You can get your college team as well, and of course, you can get a Steelers pennant. They got multiple different options as well. So I really love the price point that GLD brings to the table, as well as the quality. And you know that feeling when you get your new chain, it just hits different. It elevates your whole fit, the confidence, the compliments, the way you carry yourself, all changes instantly. And GLD has everything from chains to pendants, rings, earrings, even fully iced out watches if that's your style. And listen, don't just take my word for it. Over 2 million customers and 50,000 5-star reviews backs it up. Not to mention, it's worn by some of the biggest names out there like Justin Bieber, Micah Parsons, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, A$AP Rocky, and a ton more. The best part, every single piece from GLD is guaranteed for life. It's literally built to last for the rest of your life, just like your love for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Work hard and change the game. For a limited time only, new customers are getting an insane deal here. Use code CHAT to get 50% off plus a free chain at GLD.com. That's 50% off and a free chain with code CHAT at GLD.com. After your purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. A big shout out to GLD for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. Now we shift our focus here to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who was reported yesterday is going to be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Coach T said today in his press conference that there is no deal imminent between MVS and the Steelers, and that certainly sent some of these reporters in scramble mode. We'll start with what was reported yesterday from Jeremy Fowler. Honestly, not a great day from Fowler. Got the Elliott report wrong, and it looks like he's getting this one wrong as well. It says free agent receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling plans to sign with the Steelers per source, reuniting with Aaron Rodgers from their Green Bay days. Now, Fowler, to his credit, and to be fair to Fowler, he did post this after that. It says most likely starting on practice squad. He's got 2025 guaranteed money from Seattle, and it's uncertain exactly when he'll start due to the travel logistics, but the visit went well, and he'll sign with the team. So Fowler pretty much saying, yeah, he's not signing right now, but he's eventually going to sign, and he's already agreed to sign on with the team eventually. And by the way, these reporters, most of them get their information from the agents, so if they're reporting this, it's likely MVS's agent telling Jeremy Fowler what's going on. And then after Mike Tomlin said that in his press conference today, Jordan Schultz from Fox Sports, likely, again, this is a message from MVS's agent saying the Steelers' deal with Marquez Valdes-Scantling is expected to be signed next week, per source, okay? And I think that is the big thing that you need to realize about this, guys, is that, this wouldn't get out unless the team or at least the agent wanted it out there. And there's no way an agent would be putting out there that his client's going to be signing with the team unless it's actually going to happen. So I still fully expect MVS to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers one way or another. And some people seem to think that this means Pittsburgh could still trade for a wide receiver and that maybe they're holding out on signing MVS until the trade deadline passes, and then if they can't find a deal for somebody, they'll just be like, you know what, fine, we'll just sign MVS because it's kind of a backup option. And there are some wide receivers out there that have been pretty heavily linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chris Olave and Jalen Waddle, it's been widely reported, are not going to be traded before the deadline, but you never know, I guess. But the guys that I would say are more realistic, Jacoby Myers from the Raiders, still looking for a new home. Rashid Shaheed from the New Orleans Saints. It sounds like the Saints are going to try and keep Olave, which means Shaheed, who is a free agent next year, could be dealt. Calvin Ridley, I think, could be dealt before the deadline. Christian Kirk, if he can get back healthy from his hamstring injury, could be an option that the Steelers really liked last year before the trade deadline, before he got injured in Jacksonville. Then Alan Lazard has been a name that has very consistently been linked to the Steelers, even going back to the offseason. It would be very, very cheap. But I think what this is and why MVS has not signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, at least not as of now, is not necessarily because the Steelers want to, wait until the trade deadline. I think it's more that, MVS does know that he is going to, sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think that, this report would be getting out there unless, he and his agent wanted it out there. So this week he'll study the playbook, and, he kind of knows that if he signed with the team this week, he probably wouldn't play regardless. He probably wouldn't even get a helmet, all that different stuff. So he'll sign with the team next week. He'll probably he probably already has the playbook. If they have kind of like a whisper agreement with the team, he can get the playbook, he can start studying it, and then he can start practicing next week with the hope of being able to get a helmet and be added to the active roster while he sets up his move to the Pittsburgh area throughout the course of this week. That's what I think this probably is, and maybe it's something on the Steelers' end where maybe they want to bring in. They don't want to use up the roster spot this week for somebody that they know is probably not going to be able to play this week. There's a bunch of different things that this could be. It's certainly mysterious. That's certainly the case. But either way, it certainly sounds to me like MVS is going to be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers next week one way or another. Is it possible they could still trade for somebody and sign MVS next week? Yeah, that's still possible. But I think the people out there, hoping that they trade for Jacoby Myers still, maybe it's a little bit of wishful thinking. Plus, if you trade for Jacoby Myers, if you trade for Calvin Ridley, you pretty much have to bench Roman Wilson for the rest of his for the rest of his second season in the National Football League, because the Steelers are not benching Calvin Austin III. And if you get a Jacoby Myers or a Calvin Ridley and you spend draft capital to get those guys, all the promise that we have seen from Roman Wilson the last 3 weeks goes right down the toilet unless there's another injury, because that would make him the wide receiver 4 on this team. And honestly, I don't think the Steelers want to bench either Calvin Austin III or Roman Wilson, whereas MVS can be a wide receiver 4, where if there's an injury, he's got established chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. He's won a Super Bowl before. He's caught touchdown passes in Super Bowls, and he's a true deep threat. So he could be plug and play if one of those top 3 guys gets injured, which is one of the reasons why I think MVS makes sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will MVS be the only move Pittsburgh makes at wide receiver before the deadline this year? Predict it for me by giving me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling might not be signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers as of right now, but the Pittsburgh Steelers did make a sneaky good signing today, in my opinion, and that is Derek Forrest, former Washington Commander free safety. And like I just said, guys, I think that this is going to prove, or at least it has a chance to be, a really good, sneaky signing that nobody's really sees coming. Because, I mean, when I posted my reaction on X today to the Steelers signing him, there's a lot of people in my comments saying, who even is that? Well, let me introduce you to Derek Forrest, who is one of my favorite players in the 2021 draft class. He ends up getting drafted very late by the Washington Commanders, earns a starting spot for them at free safety, and had a really good season in 2022. But he's got 4.41 speed for somebody that's 200 pounds and a true free safety. He's only 26 years old, so if he works out, he could be kind of like a DeShon Elliott type of guy where he could get another contract here in Pittsburgh if he really plays well. But I think he really showed promise at Cincinnati coming out of the draft in 2021. He was one of my ultimate sleepers in that class. And then also, I thought he played really well, and he was a real playmaker for that Commanders defense when he was healthy in his lone healthy season back in 2022. And now he's dealt with some injuries over the last 2 seasons. He had a shoulder injury in 2023, only played 5 games that season. And then last year with the Commanders, he dealt with some hamstring issues, and he ended up getting cut. He's bounced around with a couple different teams this season, with the Bills in the preseason, then on the Colts practice squad, ends up getting released from both of those teams, and now he's with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But to kind of call back to that 2022 campaign, man, this guy had 4 interceptions that season. So he's a ball hawk. He had 2 forced fumbles. He had 9 PBUs. He had a TFL. Like, he was a playmaker out there, man. And kind of like how I was talking about DeShon Elliott, how he's somebody that's always around the football, how he's a playmaker, all that stuff. I view Derek Forrest as a very similar type of player in that regard. Now, he's going to have to prove that he can stay healthy, and he needs to prove that the injuries that he's sustained over the last couple of years aren't going to affect his play on the field. But he's got good speed, so he can be that true free safety. The Steelers really don't have one of those right now. Juan Thornhill can run a little bit, but he certainly hasn't been perfect in coverage this year. We all know that. And then Chuck Clark, I mean, there's no way in hell he should be playing in the post. He's just not fast enough at this point in his career. He has certainly lost a step, but that's not the case with a 26-year-old Derek Forrest here, and he might be the best free safety, pure free safety on this team right now. And, with his ability to be a ball hawk and get those interceptions and make those plays, he's a hard hitter as well. Like, he just plays the game in the way that Steelers fans love their players to play the game. Aggressive, hard hitting, around the football, making plays. And to get a guy like this at week 9, somebody that, has upside to be a legit starting free safety, honestly, not even just this year, but maybe even down the line for this football team, I think it's an excellent signing at this point in the year at a position that the Pittsburgh Steelers, frankly, are desperate to get some help in. So true or false? Let me know down there in the comments section. Derek Forrest will finish the season as Pittsburgh's starting free safety over Juan Thornhill, Chuck Clark, and the rest of the pack. Type T if you think that statement will prove to be true, or type F if you think that statement is false. Let me know your reasons why down there in the comment section. For me, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say T for true. That'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Thank you guys so much for stopping by here today. Lots of stuff to talk about today. I'm sure we'll have even more to talk about tomorrow. So click that subscribe button if you never want to miss any of our videos here on Steelers Talk. First segment in the books, Mr. Ponzi. And coming up next, we've got our preview for Week 9 versus the Colts. I'm looking forward to this one, man. I think it's going to be an entertaining football game, okay? I think it's going to be high scoring, and you guys are going to see some of the reasons for that when we get into the preview. But if you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to vent, if you want to suggest a trade idea, make sure you guys get those Super Chat donations down there in the chat. We'll be happy to put it up on screen for you guys. Did we get a couple Super Chats, Ponzi? All right, we did. Darren with another 3. Appreciate you, Darren. And then Bernard with a 2 says, do you still think A-Rod comes back? Yes, I do. Or at least I think there's still a chance, Bernard. You know, it's too early to say for sure, but, like, I think everything is setting up for conditions for Rodgers to come back next year. All right, I would say the most likely scenario for the Steelers this year is that, you know, they get 10 wins, 11 wins, somewhere in that range, and they make the playoffs, and, you know, they don't make, and then they don't win the Super Bowl. That is exactly the conditions, in my opinion, especially if Rodgers continues to play well. And as long as the Steelers don't fire Mike Tomlin, I think that's a big key here. I think if the Steelers get rid of Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers retires. I think that, you know, Rodgers has said it himself. Tomlin's a big reason why Aaron Rodgers is here. So, you know, Tomlin needs to stay if Rodgers is going to stay, which is something that I think, you know, Steelers fans are really high on Rodgers right now, but they're not too high on Tomlin. It's like, well, do you want Aaron Rodgers to come back for another year or not? Because if you do, Aaron Rodgers has to be here, or at the very least, you know, you have to hire somebody that Aaron Rodgers wants to play for. And, you know, frankly, I think it's Tomlin or nothing for Rodgers at this point. So I do think that Tomlin will likely be back next year because I think this team will eventually get to 10, 11 wins, somewhere in that range. Maybe they win a playoff game, maybe they don't. But I think that in that scenario, A-Rod would want to come back and play for you know, Cam Hayward, who's going to be going into his final season next year, play for Mike Tomlin, all those different things. And I think right now I'd say the chances are more than 50-50 that Rodgers comes back next season. $5 from Darren says lucky on both DeShon Elliott and Isaac Seumalo's injury updates. Yeah, man, I mean, both those look like they could be real killers because we saw the impact of those injuries on Sunday night, all right? Like the two safeties that played the most after he got injured, Juan Thornhill and Chuck Clark, disasters, all right? Those two probably shouldn't play. And if I had to choose one, I'm picking Thornhill. Chuck Clark has to be sat down. He might even need to be cut. He's just not a good football player at this point in his career. He wasn't a good player last year. He's not a good player this year. He's been a liability. All right, and defenses are certainly exploiting that, especially in man coverage. I mean, goodness gracious, you're putting Chuck Clark on Tucker Kraft one-on-one in man coverage? Like, what the fuck are we doing, man? It's just dumb coaching right there, right? So the fact that Elliott should be back before the end of the season is great news. I really like the signing of Derek Forrest. I think that, you know, a combination starting next week versus Los Angeles of Derek Forrest at free safety and Jabril Peppers at strong safety, it's pretty darn good. And then when DeShon Elliott gets back, hopefully Derek is playing well enough where, you know, he's still your bona fide free safety, and then you have Elliott strong safety. And it's even better. So, you know, certainly, hopefully Elliott gets back soon, and Seumalo looks like he could play this week. And if he doesn't play this week, he's probably going to be back the following week versus Los Angeles. So that would be terrific news if that ends up being the case. We got Darren with a 5 says Tomlin's time is short. Yeah, man, I would say to the end of the season. The Steelers just will not fire a coach in the middle of the season, especially somebody with the highest win percentage in franchise history, somebody that's a future Hall of Famer, somebody that's won a championship for this organization. They're just not going to fire Tomlin in the middle of the season, as much as Steelers fans may want them to. But listen, man, if they don't make the playoffs by the end of the year, if this defense is ranking if this defense ranks at the end of the season where they are currently ranking, and they don't turn it around by the end of the season, you know, you got to have the conversation, and you got to, you know, see what the interest is out there, and see if a team is willing to take him for a first round pick. Because like John Gruden went for a first round pick, you know, like Mike Tomlin, you know, is going to be a Hall of Fame coach, but John Gruden was not. At the time. Sean Payton went for what? Did he go for a first? Yeah, he went for a first. Same amount of Super Bowls, right? And Tomlin has a higher career win percentage than Sean Payton. So, like, there's a lot of teams that would want stability in their organization that would probably trade a first-round pick for Mike Tomlin. And, you know, if you're going to be embarking on a rebuild next year and Aaron Rodgers retires and you're going to be drafting a quarterback anyway, like that extra first-round pick would be mighty helpful to go get your guy in the first round if that's what you want to do, right? Or you could get two really fucking good players, right? So that first-round pick is certainly a variable to the discussion here. He gets to the end of the season. That's what I've said, and that's what I'm going to continue to say. I don't think you fire him midseason. You give him to the end of the year, and if you don't make the playoffs and, this defense is severely underperforming like they are right now all the way through, you trade him for a first-round pick. $5 from Alex L. Says, let's go Steelers talk. Best Steelers news in town. Alex Lanier is a real one. He's always helping out our channel and always watching our show. You're a real one, Alex. $2 from Hector. Says, Jack, make a head coach candidate vid who's viable. Thank you. We'll probably, do that a little bit more maybe towards the end of the season, Hector. We're only midway through this thing now, and we only have so many videos that we do during a week. So, I'm going to hold off on that. I'm just going to be honest with you, Hector. I'm going to hold off on head coach candidates until, at least until just a few weeks before the season ends. Like, I'm not going to talk about head coach candidates as long as the Steelers are first in their division by a game and a half. That's what kind of gets lost in this whole discussion, Ponzi, is that the Steelers are still a game and a fucking half in the lead for the division. I mean, they could lose this week, and every team in the AFC North could win, and the Steelers will still be in first place in this division.
And I think, one thing that you had done already is they've already made a video about Brian Flores.
Yeah, if you want to go see a video, Hector, on a potential candidate, maybe not so much now because the Vikings defense hasn't been playing as well as of late, but I did make a video about Brian Flores being a potential candidate that could work here in Pittsburgh. So if you want to check that one out, we have that on the channel. You can go fetch that if you want. Got a $2 super chat here from Austin. And he says, do you think Caleb Johnson sees any playing time soon? Well, I mean, injuries can always happen, Austin, but right now the Steelers are very happy with what they have in Jaylen Warren, who's playing about as good as any running back in football, maybe other than, the very, very top guys. You can make an argument he's been a top 5 back in the league this year. You really can. And then Kenneth Gainwell's been a really good player for this offense this year. So, Caleb Johnson, there's no reason necessarily to rush his development. If you start losing a lot of games down the stretch and like playoffs are not a possibility, then, you certainly want to get Caleb Johnson more time. But Caleb's had a little bit of a fumble issue this year. And, Kenny and Jaylen are both playing well. So there's really no reason to me to mess with that, especially because Caleb can't catch and he can't pass protect. So, just continue to develop him. Don't put too much pressure on his plate here in week 1. He's a developmental type of guy, all right? But he's got the physical talent. We know that. I don't think there's any reason to be impatient with this. I know that in today's society we want things, and we want things now, and we want things very expediently, and we want things to happen right away. But sometimes these things do take time, especially guys like Caleb that need to develop their hands and their pass catching ability and their route running and their pass protection and spend time developing their game instead of having to worry about performing in an NFL football game, right? So I think Kenny and Jaylen are playing really well right now. Now, if there's an injury, certainly you can get Caleb Johnson in that number 2 running back role, get him some work, all that stuff. But, in the time being, I think Caleb's just fine where he's at. $2 from Taco Man says, why not Ramsey at free safety and elevate Eccles to slot cornerback? Well, you're actually going to see here in my preview, this is exactly what I'm prescribing this week, okay? This is exactly what I think the Steelers should do this week. And we'll talk about the reasons why during the preview. But the reason why I don't want it to happen full scale, at least not yet, Taco Man, is because Ramsey's tackling and physicality and run defense are very valuable. And if you put him at free safety, you put him in the middle of the field, he's not nearly as impactful in that regard. You pretty much take him out of the run fit at that point, and he's just not an active run defender for you unless he gets past, the initial run fit. And, I think that is a waste, frankly, of Jalen Ramsey's tackling and run defense and physicality. Because honestly, that's probably the best thing that he does at this point in his career. He's probably the best run defending corner in football. He's an excellent tackler. He's only missed 1 tackle all season long. Super physical. I want that presence near the line of scrimmage. He's also an excellent blitzer. We've seen that. He had 2 sacks in 1 game versus Cleveland. So that's why I want Ramsey to be the long-term big nickel in this defense. And also, if you put the tiny Brandon Eccles in the slot, that's going to make your run defense worse. All right, you have to realize that, a big reason why the Steelers' run defense has been as good as it has been in spurts this year is because they got so much size and physicality close to the line of scrimmage. And if you take Ramsey out of there and you put Eccles in the slot, it's probably not going to be nearly as good. So I am actually suggesting that the Steelers do this week because I think Echols is an excellent matchup for Josh Downs in the slot. And I think Ramsey is the ideal person to take away. We have a trade in the NFL, by the way. The Patriots are trading Keon White to the 49ers. There's according to Jordan Schultz. So interesting trade there. He kind of fits their 4-3 system there with Robert Saleh. They certainly are down bad in terms of injuries. No, so that makes sense. That certainly makes sense to me. All right, we got another super chat here from Hector Zeroni. We'll put you up here in a second, then we'll get into our preview. Hector says, how do you feel about our O-line? I think it's been really good. I think Broderick Jones has taken significant steps just this season. He's gotten a lot better as the season has gone on, and he's over the span of 3 weeks, he's shut down effectively. I mean, I think Micah had a sack, but for the most part, he played very well against Micah, and he played very well against Myles Garrett. Those are two of some of the best pass rushers you're going to see ever. And he played very well against those guys. And then Troy Fautano has looked really good on film to me. Mason McCormick has looked awesome as a run blocker. Zach Frazier is his normal self. He's fantastic. Sayamalo's been spotty, but he's been more than good enough. And then when you add on Spencer Anderson as the sixth offensive line, I mean, this offensive line's been great. So I think that's honestly one of the strengths of this team right now. I mean, if you would have told me week 2 we'd be talking about the Steelers' offensive line as one of the biggest strengths of this team about midway through the season, I would have called you – I would have said you were crazy, man. But here we are. This offensive line is really gelling, and that's really good news. Not only for the short-term future, guys, with Aaron Rodgers being an immobile quarterback, but also for the future because, you're going to be drafting probably your franchise quarterback in the first round next year. And the idea that you're going to be putting that guy in a position where you got this great young offensive line blocking in front of him, that's the number one thing you can give to a young quarterback is a run game and pass protection and then a good play caller. Those are really the three things that really, really help out young quarterbacks. And, it seems like Arthur Smith knows what he's doing, at least to some degree. Looks like that run game is certainly going right now, and that pass protection has been holding up pretty good. So what's up? Yes, we do have a Venmo. Okay. Thank you. We got 2 Venmos. Okay. Okay, there's one. And then we've got... All right, we got Caleb. This is DJ KJ, actually. This is DJ KJ. Says, if the Steelers continue playing the way they have been, we don't make the Super Bowl or playoffs, we will be selling before the deadline or selling before the 2026 draft. Yeah, probably. If this defense gives up 30 a game, every game the rest of the way, I agree with you, DJ KJ. But listen, man, I just have this feeling that they're eventually going to figure it out. I don't know, man. I think Tomlin's comments today on the defense were asinine, but just something tells me that they're going to find the right mix. And when they do that, they're going to start winning a lot of games. And when they start winning a lot of those games, they're going to make the playoffs. And hopefully they can take that positive momentum into the postseason where, I still think this team gives you the best chance to win a postseason game in a long time, probably since the 2017-2018 season. It's probably what I'd say. Maybe 2020, but, they really crumbled down the stretch, right? I think this team is set up to play their best football still down the stretch. We'll have to see if they do that. Hopefully they can make some adjustments, but that's certainly the case. Okay, $2 from Brian Ruiz, who says, let me see here. What does Rooney have to see to fire this clown? Yeah, Tomlin. He's going to have to see this defense be really bad the entire season. Okay, it can't just be for half a season, and then if they play well down the stretch and they make the playoffs and they win a playoff game, right? If they win double-digit games, I don't think they fire him. All right, he has to have less than 10 wins. They have to miss the playoffs, and I think they have to have a bottom 10 defense. If those 3 things happen, I think there's a chance, Brian. If those 3 things happen, you have to miss the playoffs, you have to have less than 10 wins, and you have to have a bottom 10 defense. If those three things happen, I think they will consider trading him. And that's not even a guarantee. I think they consider it at that point. So this is a team that very famously and is very proud of the fact that they've never fired a coach in the Super Bowl era. And, you know, they're very cognizant that Mike Tomlin is Canton bound. So, you know, they're going to be very, very cautious letting go of Mike Tomlin. But if they don't make the playoffs, they don't get to 10 wins, and they have a bottom 10 defense, I think that the conversation will be had. But if any of those three things don't happen, I think that they're going to keep him. Well, you know, maybe if the defense turns it around, but they still only win 8 or 9 wins, like they might still consider it. Like I really think the big thing is the win total and whether or not they make the playoffs. Okay, so that's what I think. Okay, let's get into our second segment of the day. Our in-depth Week 9 preview, Steelers versus Colts, is coming at you right now. This week, the Pittsburgh Steelers look to get back in the win column, taking on the number 1 team in the AFC. Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts are coming to Acrisure Stadium on Sunday afternoon. And today here on Steelers Talk, going to be breaking down this game very in-depth. We're going to be going over the team trends. We're going to be going over specifically Indianapolis' roster and scheme breakdown. We'll go over my keys to victory for what the Steelers need to do to win. And then we'll get into my official score prediction at the end of today's show. So make sure you guys stick around. But this week's watch party here on Steelers Talk, we have the largest watch parties for Steelers fans anywhere on the YouTube platform. We have over 100,000 people watch our show every single week because we like to think we give you guys really great coverage. An hour pregame coverage every single game, breaking down what to watch for in the game, all that great stuff, super chat promotions, all that stuff. Then during the game, we have live play-by-play and live analysis of the game itself, where we react to the game together. And then we got extensive post-game coverage as well, breaking down what happened in the game and, you know, kind of my takeaways, all that stuff. So our coverage this week starts at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Game starts at 1, so we get an hour of pregame coverage. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to never miss any of our live watch parties this year and to never miss any of our free content here on Steelers Talk during the 2025 season. All right, so this week, man, the number 1 seed coming to town, the 7-1 Indianapolis Colts coming in to take on the 4-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. And, you know, the Steelers are in danger now of losing 3 straight and going down to 500 after starting their season with a 4-1 record. So this is really a big game for the Steelers. If they can pull this off and they can get to 5-3 and extend their advantage in the AFC North, coming off a win against a team as hot as this one, that would certainly feel really good. But of course, if you lose, you're looking at a lot of despair in this Steelers fan base here heading into Sunday Night Football in Week 10 versus the Los Angeles Chargers. And you can take a look at Indianapolis' results so far this season. Now, what I'll say about Indy is that they haven't played a lot of legitimately good teams this year. All right, they did beat Denver, who is playing well this year, but they won that game at home because of a leverage call on what would have been a game-sealing play for the Denver Broncos that ends up being reversed because of that leverage call on a kick, and they end up winning that game as a result. Okay. So that game, a little bit fluky, but they did beat the Denver Broncos. That is the best win on their schedule. But they've played a lot of bad teams, man. The Dolphins, the Titans twice, the Raiders. They nearly lost at home to the Arizona Cardinals with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, and then they only won by 1 score versus a Chargers team that didn't have Omarion Hampton and didn't have Joe Alt. So right now they're 7-1. They're first in the AFC North. Obviously, they are a good football team. I'm not trying to say that they're not a good football team, but they've only played really 2 good teams so far this year, and they lost one of those games. That was to the Los Angeles Rams. So this will be certainly a team that'll be interesting to see if the Steelers can take down. But out this week for both teams, DeShon Elliott has a hyperextended knee. He is out, and then Daniel Ekuale is going to be out for the season with an ACL tear, if you guys didn't get our injury updates earlier in the week. And then Charvarius Ward still on IR with a concussion. He is their number 1 outside corner. So they've certainly been missing him. And then the injuries to watch at this point in the week while I'm recording this video is Isaac Seumalo, the left guard, dealing with a pectoral strain. Could play this week, might not. We'll have to see. And then Samson Ebukam, the defensive end, missed last week versus the Titans. He's dealing with a knee issue. He'll be questionable heading into this game, at least to this point in the week. Now we can take a look here at what the Colts bring to the table from a coaching perspective. And Shane Steichen is one of my favorite head coaches in the league, bar none, guys. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. And really, I've been saying for years, if you get him a decent quarterback, he's going to be special. But he's had to deal with the likes of Gardner Minshew and, all these, and Anthony Richardson, all these guys that they've had in Indianapolis over the years. But despite that, he's got a winning record as the head coach of the Colts, 24-18. He runs a modern pro spread offense. He's probably one of the best running the spread in the National Football League today. Really, really good stuff. He's implemented a lot of true pro-style stuff as well, under center work, all that stuff. It's one of the more versatile and one of the most multiple offensive schemes in the National Football League. It's really, really difficult to play against. And then Lou Anarumo comes over from the Cincinnati Bengals over to the Indianapolis Colts this year, runs a balanced 4-2 system. He likes to tailor his defensive game plans to the opponent every single week. They run a lot of different stuff. And in Cincinnati, I think that it was a little bit too much overload where they put too much on the plates of guys and they just didn't really execute the defense there in Cincinnati. Didn't have a lot of talent there, so tough to run this style of defense with not a lot of talent, but certainly Indianapolis' defense has been pretty decent this year. Now, the good news about Lou Anarumo being their defensive coordinator is that the Pittsburgh Steelers, with a bunch of different coordinators and a bunch of different quarterbacks, have killed his defenses over the last 3 seasons while he's been the DC over there in Cincinnati. And obviously personnel matters in the National Football League. I want to get that out of the way first. But in the last 6 matchups between the Steelers and a Lou Anarumo defense, Pittsburgh Steelers are averaging over 350 yards of offense, and they are averaging over 27 points per game. And that is obviously really good numbers. And, that's with Kenny Pickett, and that's with Russell Wilson and all these different guys that they've had. That's with Mason Rudolph and all these guys that they've had throughout the years. And this is even with Eddie Faulkner calling the plays and all these guys that, have been interim OCs. And all these different guys that have been here in Pittsburgh over the years. So kind of doesn't even matter what the offensive coordinators and quarterbacks have been over the years. The Steelers have been very successful against Lou Anarumo defenses over the last several years, and they certainly seem to know how to attack his tendencies. But the bad news is it's also flipped on the other side. Shane Steichen has called 3 games in his career against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he has dominated the Steelers defense in all 3. And that includes last year when he had Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson at quarterback. You guys can take a look. The 3 matchups that he has faced against the Steelers since 2022. 1 with the Eagles in 22, and then 2 with the Colts. Pittsburgh has given up an average of 377 yards per game of total offense to those offenses, and then they've given up over 30 points a game in these Steichen-led offenses. So there's something that Steichen just fundamentally understands about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and if Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin don't do something a lot different from what they've done in years past against this scheme, it's going to be a long day for the Pittsburgh Steelers defensively. And it certainly doesn't help that, the Colts are beating everybody anyways. Like in previous seasons, like this offense hasn't been quite as good. But this year with Daniel Jones leading the way and Jonathan Taylor being maybe a leading MVP candidate, this offense is the best offense in the National Football League through the first 8 weeks of the year. You just take a look at how many categories they are first in. First in points per game, first in total offense. They're first in yards per play efficiency. They're first in EPA per play efficiency. First in EPA per rush, okay? And they're top 10 in every single major category that you look at when you're evaluating team offense, okay? They don't give away the football. They're efficient in the red zone and on third down. They can pass the football. They can rush the football. They're very balanced in that regard. This is, the most dangerous offense in the National Football League until proven otherwise. And I know they've played a lot of bad defenses. In fact, they've played the Titans twice, which is a huge advantage. But, they've taken advantage of those opportunities, and you got to give them credit for that. On offense here, this is what we're going to be looking at talent-wise for the Indianapolis Colts, or the Fighting Indiana Joneses. You got Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes himself as the quarterback of this team. We'll talk about him later in the show. Really good offensive line as well. Bernard Raymond, one of the best left tackles in the game as far as I'm concerned. Same thing goes for Quentin Nelson on the left side at the guard spot. They got Tanner Bortolini, who's been really good at center for them this year. Matt Goncalves from Pitt is at right guard. He's had a really good season. Same thing goes for Braden Smith. There's not a single weakness on this entire Colts offensive line, kind of similar to what Steichen had in Philadelphia, where he built an excellent offensive line as the OC there. And then Michael Pittman Jr. is their number one receiver. He's their short and intermediate kind of threat there, and he's a yak monster, very tough to bring down after the catch. Alec Pierce is their true deep threat. And then you got Josh Downs as their slot. Very complementary set of weapons in the receiver position. And then really their dynamic piece that they added in the draft this year is rookie out of Penn State, Tyler Warren. He's been a complete revelation. They use him in very creative ways. They'll put him out at fullback, although they'll insert him into the C gap and do some very creative stuff with him and finding ways to get him open. And then Jonathan Taylor might be my pick for MVP right now. He's been so good. He's had, I think, 3 separate performances with 3 touchdowns. And once this Colts team gets into, run the football mode, they just can't be stopped. But then on the defensive side of the ball, they're a little bit more beatable, but they certainly have their weaknesses. They're not very good on third down. Okay, they're below average in the red zone as well, but something that they do very well is that they take the football away. And just to show you how big turnovers are, I mean, they're not really like top 10 in any other category other than takeaways and points per game allowed. So that shows you just how much points allowed and takeaways are inextricably linked. If you can turn the football over, you're not going to give up nearly as many points. And that's certainly been the case to this point in the season for the Indianapolis Colts, but this is certainly a beatable group. Take a look at their roster on this side. You got Leatu Latu, in my opinion, their best defensive player, period. He is really good out of UCLA, a second-year player. Insane cross chop, all right? So that's going to be a test for Broderick Jones this week. But then the guys on the interior are really good as well. DeForest Buckner, still one of the best interior pass rushers in the game. And then Grover Stewart is one of the best run pluggers in the league as a true nose tackle. Kwity Paye, good run defender. He's not going to give you much in terms of pass rush, but the Colts seem to be okay with that with the production they get from Latu and Buckner in that regard. In terms of the off-ball backers in this defense, you got Zaire Franklin, who's not grading out too well according to Pro Football Focus, but he's been in this defense a while. And then Jermaine Pratt coming over, he's very familiar with this system that Lou Anarumo runs. He, of course, is coming over from Cincinnati, where he's a veteran of this Anarumo scheme. He'll be out there on the field for this Colts defense. Then you get to the secondary, and it's certainly a group that you can take advantage of a little bit. Kenny Moore's their best corner, but he'll be playing in the slot in their base nickel looks. Then Mekhi Blackman and Jonathan Edwards will be playing on the outside when they're in nickel. None of these guys outside of Kenny, who's an awesome corner, really good slot player, is grading out super well. But Cameron Bynum, Nick Cross, solid players. I wouldn't say those are star players, but they're certainly good enough, and they have certainly graded out in the top half among safeties in the National Football League to this point in the year. So still to come here on the Steelers Talk preview for Week 9. My keys to victory versus the Indianapolis Colts, my scouting report on quarterback Daniel Jones, and my official score prediction for this one. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers get back into the win column this week? I'll give you my prediction at the end of today's show. But before we get into the rest of this week's preview, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Ethos. In the summer before I started here at Chat Sports, guys, my family unfortunately lost my late grandfather. And as you tend to do when you lose a loved one that's really close to you, you begin to think about your own mortality and what would happen to the people dependent on you if something were to happen. With today's sponsor, Ethos, your family can be protected. Cassie and I are getting married soon, and shortly after that, I imagine we'll buy a house and start having some kids. If something were to happen to me, I want the last thing the people I love to worry about is being able to pay the bills, so I trust Ethos to keep them protected. As you probably already know, however, the process of obtaining life insurance can be super confusing or straight up annoying with how tedious the process can be. That's where our friends at Ethos come in. As of March of 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process, and it's 100% online. There's no medical exam required, and you just answer a few health questions to get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos today. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily to get your free quote today. Application times may vary, rates may vary, and a big thank you to Ethos for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. My first key to victory for this week's game versus the Colts is to make Danny Dimes uncomfortable, all right? Danny has certainly shown throughout his career, if you can put pressure on him, he is going to crumble a little bit. And part of the reason why he's had so much success there in Indianapolis is because their pass protection is usually very, very good. Now, you take a look at what Daniel was able to do versus the Steelers defense last year when he was still playing for the New York Giants. 63.1% completion percentage, nothing crazy there. 264 yards passing, that's not bad, but he didn't have a touchdown, and he did throw an interception late in crunch time. So certainly not like an abysmal performance from Daniel Jones by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly not a great one either. But now that he's got Shane Steichen calling his plays and all these great players around him and a fantastic supporting cast, certainly going to be a little bit more of a challenge to corral Danny Dimes. Now, you take a look at my scouting report for him. I really like his size. Obviously that's always been a good thing with him. 6'5", 230. But the mental processing is really good with him, guys. He can get through a full field progression read. He gets through it quickly, gets the ball out relatively fast. And also he's a plus rusher, of course. Vanilla Vic is the moniker there. I don't expect him to, run off, rip off any 80-yard runs or anything like that, but he's certainly somebody you have to account for in the run game. He does have a good arm. It's not a great arm. It's a good arm, and he does have some good accuracy as well. Doesn't get too wild with the accuracy and with the stroke. But then the cons, pocket presence can be very, very shaky. He can have really tough time sensing pressure, and that's why he's such a good fit here in Indianapolis. And why he was such a bad fit in New York was because they didn't have a good pass protection unit in New York. He'd take a bunch of sacks. He would fumble a lot, all that stuff. And he was the worst quarterback under pressure in the league when he was in New York. Now he's not under pressure nearly at the same rate, and he seems a lot more comfortable. He can also be somewhat conservative. He likes to check it down. He likes to take the safe option. Now if there's an open receiver down the field, he's going to take it, and he has been more aggressive this year, but that has been a tendency on his film throughout the years. And then the playmaking upside. I don't know if he's a special playmaker out in space. He usually likes to tuck it and run it if he's not going to throw it within structure, but I do consider him a Tier 3 franchise quarterback, which I consider to be a good starter. That is probably the biggest tier of quarterbacks in the National Football League for me. But, he's been very productive this year, and you guys can take a look at his advanced numbers. Second in adjusted EPA per play, second in success rate. He's been top 10 in completion percentage over expectation, which is a fantastic number for him. The yards per attempt is top 3 in the league, so super, super efficient stuff. The one thing that does stand out to me on this graphic is something that's not fantastic is the big-time throw percentage. It's not like he's carrying and elevating this Colts offense a bunch. It's a lot based on the scheme. It's a lot based on the run game. It's a lot based on the play-action game, guys getting wide open. And he's just a really good point guard is the way that I would describe Daniel Jones. If you can protect him, if you can give him a clear picture, he's going to be able to most of the time get the football where it needs to go. I think he's more of a trailer than a truck where he's not driving the bus. Or he's driving the bus, but he's not the bus, if that makes any sense. Then we get to my second key to victory, and a big thing in terms of stopping the passing attack is to stop giving these quarterbacks easy answers. Because if there's anything Daniel Jones loves is to get rid of the football quickly out to a flat or to a slant or to something underneath or to a check down. And what are the kinds of routes and what are the kinds of things that the Pittsburgh Steelers have been giving up, especially over the last 2 weeks? It's a lot of flats. It's a lot of slants. It's a lot of underneath stuff. And, if that happens again this week, the Colts are just going to slice and dice them all day long. And, that's the world that Daniel Jones wants to live in. All right. Daniel Jones wants to be able to, get the ball out fast and, put it underneath and get it to his playmakers out in space. Where Daniel Jones is more uncomfortable is when he has to throw the ball down the field to guys that are covered. All right, that is something that should be a big point of the game plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Try and take away the underneath stuff as much as you possibly can, put as much pressure as you can on Daniel Jones. And if that means taking more risks with maybe Alec Pierce hitting a deep shot on you once or twice in this game, so be it. All right, I'm just sick and tired of this defense getting gashed time and time and time again because they're blitzing and they're playing conservatively on the back end. It's like, no, let's take away those underneath stuff. Let's make Daniel Jones earn everything that he gets in this ball game. But then, something that Mike Tomlin certainly needs to do in this game and Terry Lawson needs to do is solve the personnel puzzle on the defensive side of the ball. And this is something that the Steelers just haven't been able to do to this point, specifically in the secondary. But certainly it affects, the pass rush as well, because they've played Nick Herbig less than 30 snaps these last two games, and he only played 24 snaps versus the Green Bay Packers. That is your most productive edge rusher on your team, getting 24 snaps in an NFL football game. That is unacceptable. So my easy fixes when it comes to the personnel stuff. Okay, get a three-way starting offensive or outside linebacker rotation going. All right, TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith should all be getting very similar amount of snaps. I don't care if Highsmith and Watt are making more money. They are very similar in terms of the impact that they can make, and a three-way starting rotation will keep everybody fresh. Then I would start Jabril Peppers at strong safety, okay, and I think that is going to be the plan this week. And then I would bench Chuck Clark, okay, and you can put who you want at free safety. Juan Thornhill wouldn't be my first choice. We'll get into who my first choice is here in just a second. But if it's a choice between Chuck Clark or Juan Thornhill this week at free safety, give me double deuce. But the guy that I would play at the other safety position this week is Jalen Ramsey, okay? And I don't think that this is a long-term fix. I don't think that necessarily you want to go the full Woodson here and just convert Ramsey to a full-time safety. I'm open to that idea if it really works. But I think that Ramsey's a really good player in the slot and a really good tackler. But for this week in particular, okay, without DeShon Elliott, and you're the number one thing that you got to do in terms of the passing game and who to cover is how do you cover Tyler Warren? And you got to have somebody that's physical, somebody that's got the size, and somebody that's got the coverage ability, because Warren obviously has size, but he can also get open. He's great after the catch. So you're going to want somebody that can tackle bigger bodies, somebody that can play in coverage and has instincts and to take them away. And I think Jalen Ramsey is probably the best suited to take away Tyler Warren in this ballgame. And I really hope that's the plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into this ballgame. I think that Jalen Ramsey is actually much more suited to take away a dynamic tight end like Tyler Warren than he's suited to take away a dynamic wide receiver like Jamar Chase, like they tried to do a couple of weeks ago. Just with Ramsey's size and physicality and his length and his ability to tackle, I think that he is a perfect matchup for Tyler Warren this week. And I think if anybody's going to be able to shut him down or at least contain him, it would be number 5. Now you might be saying at home, but Jack, what do we do at slot cornerback this week? Well, I would start Brandon Eccles. Okay, and Eccles is an undersized guy, but he's very fast and he's very shifty. And guess who else is undersized, shifty, and fast? That would be Mr. Josh Downs, the slot wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. So I think that's a really good matchup for Eccles this week. So I just think that the puzzle pieces fit together this week in particular to play Ramsey at safety and Eccles in the slot. And if that really works out for you, maybe you can think about making that a more full-time thing. But just for this week, I do want to see them play Ramsey at safety so he can erase Tyler Warren from this ball game. But then we get to Jonathan Taylor, and it's going to be tough to contain this guy because he might be the MVP of the league right now. He's certainly the offensive player of the year. He's had 3 different occasions where he's had 3 touchdowns in a game. I have him in fantasy, and he is absolutely dominating for me, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone knows how good Jonathan Taylor has been this year, it is me. But the Steelers, I think, are more than capable of stopping Jonathan Taylor in this game. That might sound crazy to you because, they gave up that big performance to the Bengals running back room, and they had a couple poor games earlier in the year. But just last week, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers did a really good job bottling up Josh Jacobs and the Green Bay Packer rushing attack, and it wasn't until they were gassed at the end of the game and Emmanuel Wilson was getting the carries that they started giving up some yardage. But Josh Jacobs was effectively shut down. This is like a top 5 running back in the game today, only getting 2.5 yards per carry. And also just a few weeks ago, the Steelers defense also shut down Quinshon Judkins. Okay, now obviously not having DeShon Elliott is not going to help things out. I mean, that the Packer run game had doubled the yards per carry after DeShon Elliott got injured in the second half of that Sunday Night Football matchup. So they're certainly going to be asking Jabril Peppers to fill some big shoes there this week. But the Steelers, I think, are capable of at least containing Jonathan Taylor from completely wrecking this ball game, and hopefully that's exactly what happens once we get to Sunday. But now shifting over to the offensive side of the ball, feed Jalen Warren, okay? Feed the beast, okay? Jalen Warren has been absolutely fantastic this year. Every single game he's making an impact. He's making people miss. He's one of the toughest guys in the league to bring down upon first contact. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He can run the football, obviously. Hopefully you have Sayamalo in this game so you can run jumbo personnel packages. And this run game has been, probably a top 3 run game in the league ever since, they started going to those jumbo personnel packages in week 4. But another thing here is that, last year when this Steelers team played the Bengals in week 13, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris combined had over 100 receiving yards in that game. So there's certainly a gap here where Anarumo likes to send 5-man palms and quarters blitzes, which leaves the middle of the field with that little check down to the running back wide open. If he comes out with that same shit this year, keep feeding Jaylen Warren. And, of course, along with that passing production, you can get him his normal workload as the number 1 running back. There shouldn't be an offensive player outside of Aaron Rodgers and Zach Frazier that touches the ball more than Jaylen Warren in this ball game, period. But then there's certainly some opportunities for the Steelers to exploit some perimeter mismatches, in my opinion, in this ball game. Okay, because you got Mekhi Blackman and you got Jonathan Edwards, 2 guys that are very young, still learning, not the best outside corners. If they go man coverage and they give you opportunities to go to DK Metcalf deep or even Roman Wilson, they've been playing Roman on the outside while they play Calvin on the inside when both of those guys are healthy this year. And Roman Wilson had a couple nice catches as an outside receiver this past week. So I'm expecting Roman Wilson to potentially have a really good game. He's going up against Jonathan Edwards, who is not a great corner. So I think Roman has a very good matchup this week, but also I think DK Metcalf versus Mekhi Blackman. Are you kidding me? That is a huge mismatch. I think that there's certainly going to be opportunities for Aaron Rodgers in the play-action game in particular. If Jaylen Warren and that jumbo personnel package is rolling, there's going to be opportunities to load up that play-action deep passing game and get Metcalf and Roman some nice deep shots in this ball game. But then my final key to victory here is to play the cleaner game. The Steelers have lost every game that they have not played the cleaner ball game in, and they have won every game that they have played the cleaner game in terms of penalties, in terms of turnovers. When the Steelers can force turnovers and they don't turn the football over, and when they're not committing penalties and their opponents are committing penalties, the Steelers win ball games. All right, but over the last 2 weeks and in every game they've lost this year, it's been the exact opposite. They're turning the football over more. They're on offense. They're not turning it over as much on defense. In fact, not at all on defense. They're getting these bad penalties that are putting them behind the sticks, especially on offense. You got to play cleaner than what they have over the last 2 weeks if you want to win, especially against Indianapolis, and they will not hesitate to make you pay for self-inflicted wounds, okay? And we've seen too many of those self-inflicted wounds over the last few weeks from the black and gold. Hopefully they clean those up this week. But now you take a look here, and it's time to predict the score of this ball game. We'll start with the trends and what the trends say in terms of the points per game production. Colts offense is getting 33.8 points per game. That's more than a field goal, more than any other team in the field, which is just insane. As Steelers defense is giving up 25 points per game, and then on the other side, Steelers offense is getting just the exact same number. It's kind of crazy. They're scoring the same amount they're giving up every single game, and then the Colts defense is giving up just 19.3 points per game. The trends would predict a Colts win, final score 30-23, which is outside of the margin of error. So the trends would tell you that the Colts are the clear favorite in this ball game. But my prediction for this game, guys, is I will go with the Colts. Okay, and I just think at the end of the day, the things that I'm hearing from Mike Tomlin and the comments that he's making about how they don't need to make adjustments and they don't need to make changes to this defense, and it just sounds to me like they're going to be running the same shit that really always run this year, and Shane Steichen's going to be able to identify that on film, and they're going to be able to get the ball out fast. They're going to be able to, completely make mincemeat of this Steelers defense. That's probably my prediction. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong on that, but I think the Steelers offense will have a very productive day. They'll put up over 30 points, and once again, they'll have a very solid performance versus a Lou Anarumo defense, and I would say take the over in this ball game, folks, but I think at the end of the day, the Colts will end up make more plays, and they'll win this game by a touchdown, and the Steelers will go down to 4-4 after starting 4-1. So it's your turn. Let me know down there in the comment section. Predict the score of Steelers versus Colts this week. I've got the Colts winning. But hopefully the Steelers can figure something out on defense. I don't have a high level of confidence that'll be the case. But I'm certainly going to be hoping, and we're going to be here covering it all here on the Steelers Talk Watch Party on Sunday. Again, guys, that starts at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. We're going to have extensive coverage for you guys on this channel, so make sure you click that subscribe button because we're going to have injury updates throughout the week. If there's anything that comes out surrounding this football game leading into this week's matchup at Acrisure Stadium, we will let you guys know with our coverage here on Steelers Talk, so make sure you click that subscribe button to never miss any of that action. All right, that is it for our segments today. So we'll stay live as long as the super chats keep flowing. But Taco Man with a 2 says Slay has lost too much speed, too big of cushions. I don't disagree at all. Now, I think last week he did better in coverage. He was abysmal as a tackler. That's really where Slay wasn't very good last week, was in tackling. But in coverage, he was actually okay. I think he had that one pass breakup on a third down in the first half. That was a big play. That was one-on-one in press, and he was able to stick with his guy. And he didn't really have any coverage lapses after that either. So in coverage, Slay was actually okay, in my opinion. But he only played half of the defensive snaps, so there was a limited kind of, workload there. And then he had some really bad effort tackling type of issues.
Yeah.
You can't be slow and have tackling issues.
It's just not a good combination. I mean, unless you're Chuck Clark.
Right. So we've seen too many lapses from Slay this year, whether it's miscommunication issues, whether it's coverage busts in zone coverage, whether it's not being able to stick with guys in man coverage. He has been a liability this year, and I hate to say that. I'm sure he's a great guy. He's a great personality. I love watching him on Rich and Sherman's podcast, but I'm certainly wishing him the best. But I mean, we're going to tell the truth on this show. He has not played well this year, so this might be his final chance. It really might, because let's just say they go with
his final year in the NFL.
It will be. He's already said this is his final year.
Oh, really?
He said it. He said it when he signed with the Steelers. This is his last year.
Gotcha.
Maybe he wants to expedite that retirement process. I don't know, but let's just say they go with my plan here. Okay, they put Ramsey at safety to guard Tyler Warren, and then they put Brandon Echols in the slot to guard Josh Downs. So that leaves you with a couple options. You could go with Darius Slay on the outside. You could go with James Pierre on the outside. Or you could maybe, if he's healthy enough, activate Corey Trice Jr. and play him. And I think that would be a very popular idea. But, the fact that he's not being activated right now, and we didn't get an update from Tomlin, tells me that Trice probably won't be activated this week.
No, I don't think – I mean, especially since that we didn't get anything regarding him. I mean, honestly – what's the most appealing option for you in that case?
What I would do is I would start Slay, and I would probably put him on Michael Pittman Jr. because Pittman's not going to burn you deep.
No.
I would put Joey Porter Jr. on Alec Pierce and have him play press on him and take away the deep shot. Okay? Yeah. And then what I would do outside of that is I would try and take away the underneath shit with bogus zones and playing hard flats, and I'd probably put Joey Porter Jr. Man-to-man on Alec Pierce and Meg. And then I would shift the coverage away from him. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The only problem that, with anything is just making sure Tyler Warren doesn't beat you, because Steelers have been terrible.
Yeah, that's the risk with playing zone versus Indianapolis, is that they can scheme Warren up to get a matchup that they like. Versus man, you could just line up Jalen Ramsey on him, and there's nothing they can do. Maybe they can try and get some rub routes going or whatever, but
I think Ramsey matches well against Warren. I do like that you put that in the little preview right there. But
and that would mean you would be trusting Jabril Peppers to play in center field at free safety. And it's not like he's a speed demon necessarily. He's not slow necessarily.
It's not like he doesn't have the athletic ability, more or less Chuck Clark. But it's just more of a question of he hasn't had the game reps in the Steelers defense. And
the Steelers, and then in terms of stopping Jonathan Taylor perspective, it would be nice to have both Jabril Peppers in the box and Jalen Ramsey in the slot, because those are two very good run defenders that can
can really get downhill really fast.
Exactly, but if you're doing my plan, you're getting lighter at the line of scrimmage with Echols, but I think Echols lines up really well with Josh Downs and his skill set. So you're going to have to pick your poison here. I would rather put Peppers in free safety and trust Eccles in the slot. And frankly, I think he's earned that trust throughout the season. He's been
really good.
He's been better than Darius Slay. And by the way, he got about half of the outside cornerback snaps last week,
which tells you a lot about how they're feeling.
Yeah, right now they're certainly trending towards Brandon Eccles being a full-time starter if Slay continues to stink. And I think what a place that I would love to get to here, Ponzi, is I would love to get to a place where we got Joey Porter Jr. as the Meg guy and the guy that we play in press. Then I would we have a Steelers trade.
Whoa.
Kyle Duggar is a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Whoa, hold up, let's get this.
Okay.
According
to Tom Pelissero, I think is who had it, or maybe Diana Rossini.
Wow, that actually changes everything.
Tom Pelissero from NFL Network says trade. The Patriots are sending safety Kyle Duggar to the Steelers per sources.
Alrighty, hold up. Let me get this going up.
Okay. Well,
we already have trade details too.
I think it's a 7th-round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
That's actually incredible value. Hold up, let me get this.
All right, it is. They're sending a 7th-round pick. The Steelers have multiple of those next year. Or no, they're sending a 6th-round pick in exchange for Duggar and a 7th. So the Steelers still have the same amount of draft picks that they have. They still keep their 12 picks. They just downgrade one of them.
Okay.
So obviously we're going to be staying live to take your questions, and of course we'll do a breaking news live cut. What's up? Yeah. But just so you guys know, breaking news here on Steelers Talk, the Pittsburgh Steelers are trading for Kyle Duggar. All right, man. Well, my initial reaction is I like it. The initial reaction is I like Kyle Duggar as a player. He's very versatile. He's big. He's fast. And he's going to be your starting free safety. Former first-round pick back in the Belichick era, and he's played with Jabril Peppers before. Plus, he's got the size to play almost like hybrid linebacker as well when DeShon Elliott gets back. Yes. Yeah. Well, probably not the quote. Yeah. Because that's not going to matter now. So Kyle Duggar is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Very versatile safety. He's played free safety. He's played box safety. He's played with Jabril Peppers, of course, so they already have a little bit of established chemistry. In terms of this week, whether or not he's going to be able to play, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to play. So what we need, Ponzi, is we need a new live thumbnail. So put this in production. We need new live thumbnail. We need VOD thumbnail. We need VOD copy. We can just keep the VOD or the live copy, what it is. And then, obviously, you're going to need to get a script together here. I would say I'm going to send you a doc here. So just bear with us here, guys. We got a little bit of behind-the-scenes action here. We got to get a breaking news video ready for you guys for Kyle Duggar, who is a physical downhill player. He plays a very similar role to DeShon Elliott as a true strong safety, but he's also played deep safety. He's fast enough to do that. He's played with Jabril Peppers in the past. I like this. Correct. No. Perfect. All right. So I would say the graphics that I want, obviously get trade ready. Say, what's your one-word reaction to this trade, and then grade the trade. Basic ones, and then probably a list for Cat of his stats. Yeah, and then we'll just send me full screen for a lot of it. Obviously, we have that player card as well. Correct. So we'll need a player L3 as well. Breaking news: the Steelers are trading for Kyle Duggar. Have Duggar's headshot, or if we have a big cam of him, I don't know. Yep, great. So we can use that. Steelers logo obviously in the background. So I'm sending you a doc right now. Just use this as a general template. This is actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually a Ponzi's first breaking news action in terms of trade. It's the first trade that's ever happened in his career as a Steelers producer. What's up? Okay, great. All right. All right, I have my one-word reaction, L3, in there as well for you to look at, Ponzi. So just getting that doc. Kind of just use that template. But we're going to talk about this trade, and if you want to get that trade graphic up on screen as soon as possible, Ponzi. But thank you guys so much for joining us here. We have breaking news here on Steelers Talk with 250 people watching live. Kyle Duggar is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Big, physical safety on his way to Pittsburgh. On the same day, they signed Derek Forrest. So they're really loading up here in the safety room. And this tells me, guys, and really my biggest takeaway for you guys right now is Juan Thornhill and Chuck Clark are in trouble. All right, these guys, they not only are you getting DeShon Elliott back eventually, but you add not one but two safeties to the room in one day. I mean, good luck, folks. Good luck, Chuck and Juan. My guess is, it would not shock me if Chuck Clark gets released. And I think that's the right move, man. Chuck has just not played well. It's kind of boggled my mind. Now, the thing that I would say Duggar is more known for is that he's more known as a run-defending safety, but so it'll be interesting to see what they do with Jabril Peppers. Do they even play Peppers now? Or I mean, they could. They do have that chemistry. And Peppers is faster, I believe. Let me see what these guys ran. But, yeah, man, if I'm Chuck Clark, I'm shaking in my boots right now because the Steelers, there's the room in the safety room is shrinking at this point. And we have help on all that stuff. Great. Well, thank God Thank God we didn't sign off, Ponzi. Thank God we didn't sign off. We were about to, go through some super chats and sign off, but now we have a trade. So Jabril Peppers' 40 time was 4.46. Kyle Duggar's was 4.49. So Peppers, I mean, obviously that's a while ago. That they've been in the league a while, but I would say Peppers is probably the more suited for free safety, but honestly, they're both kind of more suited for box safety, and they're both really versatile pieces. The way that New England would use these guys is they would use them as versatile pieces where they could both play deep, they could both play in the box, they could use them in different ways, and they would rotate these guys a lot pre-snap. So I'm wondering if that's kind of what the Steelers' vision is, and this also harkens back to another season where the Steelers' defense was really struggling to start the year, and then they trade for a safety, and the defense completely turns around. Of course, I'm referring to Minkah Fitzpatrick when they traded a first-round pick for him all those years back. And, that was a situation where the safeties in Pittsburgh's defense were absolutely terrible that season. You immediately add Minkah Fitzpatrick, and it pretty much fixed the defense overnight that season. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's what's going to happen here. Obviously, Duggar, Duggar's an older player, all that stuff. He's not, a second-year player coming off a first-round pick selection like Minkah was. But, obviously the Steelers feel like the safety room is a big problem with their football team right now. Have we changed the live title? And good value, man. I like the fact that he's physical. I like the versatility. I like the chemistry with Jabril Peppers, who's going to be one of this team's starting safeties. Now, my question is, do they get Duggar? Yeah, breaking Steelers trade for safety, Kyle Duggar. Probably breaking news, colon, in all caps. Yeah, Steelers Talk Live at the end. Put a bar and then Steelers Talk Live. Well, actually, maybe I can change the title here, actually. Do we not have the thumbnail yet? Did people go home? Okay, cool. Half days. Well, we're going to be here for probably another hour or so, I'd say, maybe even a little bit longer. We're going to take your questions. Obviously, this is a breaking news situation, so bear with us here. What's up? Can't be worse than what? No. Yep. Okay, let me see what we got here. So if you guys are just joining us, we got 246 people watching live. The Pittsburgh Steelers have traded for New England Patriots safety Kyle Duggar. Big, versatile safety, almost like a hybrid linebacker type. He's getting up there in age, but the Steelers don't give up that much for him. He's known as a good locker room guy. That's obviously the second piece New England has traded away today. But if I'm Chuck Clark, and this is my biggest takeaway, guys, Juan Thornhill and Chuck Clark might be cooked. All right, like their days playing in this Steelers secondary are probably limited at best to over at worst. My guess is we'll probably hear about one of those two guys being cut in the hours to come. And another big question that's going to need to be answered here is how quickly does this team get Duggar ramped up? And then another question is when DeShon Elliott gets back, what the hell do they do? Do they put Duggar at linebacker on like third downs and take Patrick Queen off the field because he's been a little bit of a liability in coverage and pair him up with Peyton Wilson along with DeShon Elliott and then whoever they got playing free safety at that point? Yeah, on the player L3. And breaking news is the title. And whenever we have those graphics ready, we can just go right into it. What did Jack say for sponsor? Okay, gotcha. All right, so we're going to get into a breaking news cut as soon as we have that ready for you guys. we have any thumbnails in here? Jeez, it's breaking news. Nobody's helping. Oh, here it is. All right. Yeah. Interceptions, PBUs, forced fumbles. All right. How far away are we, do you think? Okay. Well, let us know what your reactions are down there in the comment section. Grade this trade A, B, C, D, or F. The Steelers have traded a 6th-round pick in next year's NFL draft. They have multiple of those in exchange for Kyle Duggar and a 7th-round pick. So the Steelers still have 12 draft picks next year. They pretty much just traded Duggar for a late-round pick swap. And I don't hate this deal whatsoever for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Where the hell is this? All right. There we go. All right. So I'm going to put a new live poll in the chat right now, guys. Grade the trade A, B, C, D, or F. I just have a lot of questions. You know, are they bringing him in to play free safety? Are they going to play more of a too-high safety kind of system more now where you have those split safeties instead of the true deep safety? Because I don't know if Jabril Peppers or Kyle Duggar fits that description. Like, Derek Forrest does. Derek Forrest is a true free safety. But when I think of Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers, the two guys that are, you know, assumingly going to be the new starting safeties for this defense until DeShon Elliott gets back, they strike me more as, you know, either a pair of starters in a split safety system or a strong safety. Sounds good. But, you know, it sounds like Marquez Valdes-Scantling will be going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, signing with the team next week. That's going to be their move at wide receiver. They bring in Derek Forrest, an established veteran at free safety, and now they bring in Kyle Duggar. And I wonder what the role for Duggar looks like in this team moving forward. Do they put him at free safety? Do they put him at strong safety? Do they try and make some adjustments to this defense where they play more kind of split safety stuff like we're seeing from Saleh and like we're seeing from Flores and what we're seeing from McDonald and Jesse Minter, and Fangio? Is that what we're going to see here? And we literally put out a video today, guys, earlier today, talking about this possibility. I said if you wanted to trade for a safety, the one safety that makes sense is Kyle Duggar. And, you know, certainly it's going to be interesting to see here if they can get Duggar ramped up in time to potentially go up against Tyler Warren this weekend. Like maybe their plan is, okay, maybe we're going to put Brandon Echols on the outside, keep Ramsey in the slot, put Duggar on Tyler Warren, and then put Jabril Peppers at free safety. So we'll see if Kyle Duggar can learn the system in time. He's going to be, you know, he's going to be able to practice tomorrow. I'm guessing he's getting travel arrangements to go to Pittsburgh tomorrow, and he'll be in the building tomorrow. He'll probably practice tomorrow, and he's going to have a full week's worth of practices to get himself ramped up. It wouldn't shock me if we see Kyle Duggar start for this team as early as this week. We might have to wait a week, but because, again, when we signed Jabril Peppers, we had to wait a week before he was able to play, but right now I'm seeing a lot of B's in the chat. And you have one more social to build here. Ian Rappaport, the Steelers are placing DeShon Elliott on injured reserve. All right, so that makes a lot of sense. So, obviously, breaking news here. The Pittsburgh Steelers have traded for safety Kyle Duggar. He's known as a bigger safety. That's a downhill thumper. Can even play a little bit of hybrid linebacker in a 3 safety formation. My guess is he's the new strong safety, at least for the time being, and then he will be a versatile chess piece that they use in 3 safety packages and that sort of stuff when Elliott gets back. But obviously you're at least 4 weeks. You're going to be at least a month without DeShon Elliott. Now, it sounds like DeShon's going to be able to come back at some point this year, but it sounds like the Steelers don't really have a lot of confidence in their safety room to be able to hold down the fort, especially in run defense, because DeShon's role as a run defender is absolutely huge in this defense. Of course, we're going to get to all your super chats once we get done with our breaking news cut here on Steelers Talk. Ponzi's currently putting together our graphics for this breaking news. And I'll be sharing my complete thoughts on Kyle Duggar. All right, he's been one of my favorite safeties to watch for years, man. He's getting older, but I don't know if they want him to play free safety, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. But if they want him to play strong safety, I don't really understand the move because Jabril Peppers can play strong safety. And he is also a pretty big guy. How big is Jabril Peppers? If I remember correctly, he's like 215 pounds or something like that. Maybe not that big, but yeah, he's 217 pounds. And he's also a good run defender and a good tackler. Unless you're going to be going to a split safety kind of rotation heavy defense, I don't know how this works. But it's certainly interesting, and I think it might be an indication that the Steelers may be adjusting some things to their defensive scheme, which is certainly good. Probably 2024, full seasons. And another thing that you have to take into account here is that you're also you're also bringing in the contract for Kyle Duggar. Just to look at the contract here. Let's take a look at his contract, how much the Steelers are bringing on here. So his base salary this year was $9.75 million. His signing bonus, which the Steelers are not on the hook for, was $4.5 million. I believe the workout and roster bonuses have already been cashed in. So obviously we're about midway through the season. So the Steelers are taking on probably around $5-6 million. Maybe $7 million of that base salary. But that's not bad. That's not bad. And here's the thing with Kyle Duggar, guys, that you have to keep in mind. He's under contract for another 2 seasons. Okay. He's under contract for another 2 seasons. And his cap hit next year would be over $11 million in 2026 and over $13 million in 2027. So I don't know how much of that is guaranteed. I'm sure the Steelers can probably part ways with him, but they're getting a player here where they have him under contract for the next 3 years. This might be a mainstay for the Pittsburgh Steelers in their defense, especially if they want to use him in a coverage linebacker type of role. I'm really intrigued by this move, man. All right, well, we have our breaking news cut ready for you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Over 400 people watching live. Get your questions in with Super Chats. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have after our breaking news cut. We're going to be taking questions and doing all that fun stuff. The Steelers make a trade. The con artist has struck. It is a safety, Kyle Duggar, heading his way to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's talk about it right now. The con artist has struck, and it is for a defensive player here. The Pittsburgh Steelers have traded for New England Patriots safety Kyle Duggar. They are sending a late-round pick swap for Kyle Duggar to the New England Patriots, and this is certainly a move that indicates to me that the Pittsburgh Steelers are serious about fixing this defense. This is a player they have a vision for. And if I'm Chuck Clark and Juan Thornhill, I'd be shaking in my boots right now. Welcome into this breaking news edition of Steelers Talk, and this is why you guys subscribe to the channel, okay, guys? Because every time the con artist strikes, and this might not be the only move that the Steelers make before the trade deadline, okay? So make sure you guys click that subscribe button for the very latest Steelers news updates. And every time they have breaking news action, we are going to make sure to get you guys a video for free on this channel. So here is the official trade details. The Pittsburgh Steelers are getting Kyle Duggar and a 2026 7th-round pick, and they are sending a 6th-round pick next year to the New England Patriots. So in terms of the total amount of picks, the Steelers aren't giving up any draft picks here. They just downgrade one of their picks from a 6th-round pick to a 7th-round pick to get somebody to help out this secondary while DeShon Elliott is dealing with his injury. Tom Pelissero had the scoop today. Says, trade. The Patriots are sending safety Kyle Duggar to the Steelers, per sources. New England gets a 2026 6th-round pick for a 2026 7th, and Duggar, who had lost his starting role, now a new opportunity in Pittsburgh. And followed right after that was Pelissero's teammate there at NFL Network, Ian Rappaport, saying the Steelers are placing safety DeShon Elliott with a knee injury on injured reserve to make room for Duggar, source said. So that all makes sense to me, guys, okay? You make a trade like this, you downgrade one of your picks to get somebody at the safety position. Today, Mike Tomlin confirmed that DeShon Elliott has a hyperextended knee, and he said that they had not discussed about putting him on IR at that point. Well, obviously, they had that conversation today, and apparently the medical professionals that work for the Steelers recommended that, he's not going to be available for the next month, so the Steelers decided to put DeShon on IR, which will put him out for at least the next 4 games, and now they're going to replace his spot on the active Steelers roster here with Kyle Duggar. And Duggar is somebody that's a former first-round pick, very versatile player, very athletic player. He's a downhill thumper that's known as one of the more versatile safeties in the National Football League. Now, he's getting a bit older. As Pelissero mentioned, he did lose his starting job to not one but 2 rookies in that New England Patriots defense, with Mike Vrabel coming in. But really big, versatile, downhill thumping type of safety, known as more of a, run defender than maybe a coverage player at 216 pounds, around the same size, actually, as his former Patriot teammate, Jabril Peppers, who, lo and behold, is playing here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he's got that established chemistry with Jabril Peppers. And if the plan is to play Peppers and Duggar at the safety spot over the next several weeks here, at least over the next month before DeShon Elliott gets back, having that chemistry between those two, and of course Peppers having that relationship with Duggar, should help Duggar get ramped up in the week to come. We'll see if he ends up playing versus the Indianapolis Colts. He should be in Pittsburgh tomorrow, and he should be good to practice, and who knows, maybe he gets ramped up in time to get a nice start for the Pittsburgh Steelers this Sunday, right after he gets traded tonight. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. What is your one-word reaction to this trade? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. At the other end of our sponsor break here, guys, I'm going to let you guys know my one-word reaction. Make sure you get down there for today's pinned question and let me know your one-word reaction. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at GLD. All right, fellas, let's be real. Buying men's jewelry used to be an absolute nightmare. It was low-quality junk that snapped after a week, or it was insanely overpriced with ridiculous markups. That's why I rock with GLD. They've changed the game in men's jewelry. You're getting quality pieces that are built to last without breaking the bank. And unlike a lot of other companies, GLD only uses real gold. None of that cheap stuff. Every single stone is meticulously hand set. Plus, their proprietary production process makes sure you're getting the highest quality jewelry possible. You can literally see and feel the difference with GLD. And a big shout out to GLD for shipping me out here an awesome Steelers pennant. I actually wore it on the Steelers Talk watch party last week versus the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. I really love it, guys, and I think I'm going to be wearing it on every single watch party this year. And it's more than just Steelers, guys. You can get a bunch of different teams. You can get your college team as well. And, of course, you can get a Steelers pennant. They got multiple different options as well. So I really love the price point that GLD brings to the table as well as the quality. And you know that feeling when you get your new chain, it just hits different. It elevates your whole fit, the confidence, the compliments, the way you carry yourself all changes instantly. And GLD has everything from chains to pendants, rings, earrings, even fully iced out watches if that's your style. And listen, don't just take my word for it. Over 2 million customers and 50,000 five-star reviews backs it up. Not to mention, it's worn by some of the biggest names out there like Justin Bieber, Micah Parsons, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, A$AP Rocky, and a ton more. The best part, every single piece from GLD is guaranteed for life. It's literally built to last for the rest of your life, just like your love for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Work hard and change the game. For a limited time only, new customers are getting an insane deal here. Use code CHAT to get 50% off plus a free chain at GLD.com. That's 50% off and a free chain with code CHAT at GLD.com. After your purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. A big shout out to GLD for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. So my one-word reaction to this trade is versatility, because that is what Kyle Duggar is really known for, and specifically his versatility, being able to be a bigger safety and be kind of a run support safety in particular. He's somebody that's a really reliable tackler. He's somebody that really takes blocks on well. He does a lot of the things that DeShon Elliott did really well in this Steelers defense, and now that you're going to be missing Elliott's presence, it's very clear that the Pittsburgh Steelers wanted somebody that they trusted even more than Jabril Peppers to play that role, and that built-in chemistry with Peppers, I think, indicates that the Steelers do plan on playing Duggar and Peppers at the safety position moving forward. Now you guys can take a look here at his stats over the last 4 years with the New England Patriots, and you guys can see, man, he's been a very productive player over the years. He's been a ball hawk at certain times. He can force fumbles. He puts up a lot of tackles, man. He is very athletic for his size. Now I don't know if he's like a true free safety center fielder type where you're going to trust him to go sideline to sideline from a center field alignment or anything like that. But it's very clear that the Steelers really like Duggar's run blocking skill set, and then also, taking away tight ends. That's another big thing that DeShon Elliott is asked to do in this defense, and it might be something that the Steelers ask him to do as early as this week, going up against a guy like Tyler Warren. I suggested earlier today on X that you put Jalen Ramsey at safety this week because you need somebody that can cover tight ends, and that's one of the things that Kyle Duggar is best at. So when I look at Duggar's profile, I see somebody that's a really good run defender. He can get off blocks. He's very used to being able to do disguises, and he's a much better fit, I would say, in the Pittsburgh Steelers defense than what he was under that new Mike Vrabel scheme. That Vrabel scheme kind of requires a little bit lighter safeties that can move around. Duggar wasn't somebody that was necessarily fitting that bill, and the Steelers bring in kind of a lighter safety today. 200-pounder that's also runs a 4.41, and Mr. Derek Forrest, he's being added to the practice squad. We'll see what happens with him. He was a former starter for the Washington Commanders, and I think that's a pretty sneaky good signing. I think a big takeaway that I have with this, guys, and you can send me full screen here, Ponzi, I think that this is a clear indication that the Steelers kind of understand they have a safety problem right now with Chuck Clark, with Juan Thornhill. We saw those two guys play in the second half on Sunday when DeShon Elliott left the game, and it just wasn't pretty. Okay, Juan Thornhill I think is a little bit better than Chuck Clark. I think if they end up cutting one of these guys, it would probably end up being Clark, especially once they eventually get DeShon Elliott back. And that's another thing about this deal, guys, is that Elliott is expected to be back at some point this season, or at least it sounds that way. And if that's the case, Kyle Duggar and his value, I think, becomes as a third safety piece. Okay, and you can come in those kind of dime package looks, and you can maybe take Patrick Queen off the field. And let's face it, Patrick Queen, who's been a really good early down linebacker, he's been really good as a blitzer, he's been really good in run defense this year. I think Patrick Queen, there's a lot of things to like about him, but he is sometimes a liability in coverage, especially zone coverage. And bringing in a guy like Duggar allows you to potentially match him up with the likes of Peyton Wilson, who's an excellent coverage linebacker, and that just fortify this passing defense that much more in those situations. But for the time being, obviously, I think Duggar is probably going to be your starting strong safety. We'll see if he gets ramped up in time to play in the Colts game this week. He's going to have a full week of practice, so I don't think there's necessarily any reason to think that he can't get ramped up in time. But, it certainly seems like the Pittsburgh Steelers want to make a change at safety. They understand that, especially with Elliott out of the lineup, that is a problem area when it comes to the personnel on this team. And they feel like Duggar's ability to stop the run, be versatile, do a lot of the things that DeShon Elliott does in this defense, and then also provide help as a third kind of safety once Elliott comes back is going to be something that I think can really benefit the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for the price tag, guys, just, moving a 6th-round pick down to a 7th-round pick, you're not even giving up the total amount of picks that you have in the draft next year. I think it's good value for Omar Khan and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, if you would have told me that this was the price tag to go get Kyle Duggar after this DeShon Elliott injury, I would have taken it every single day of the week. And, one of the reasons why you click that subscribe button here on Steelers Talk is we actually mentioned Kyle Duggar as the guy that the Steelers would target in a trade if they wanted to go get a safety. So that's exactly why you click that subscribe button. But make sure you guys let me know down there in the comments section. Grade the Kyle Duggar trade before I give some final thoughts here before we say goodbye. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Obviously, the final grade is gonna come in due time, but right now I would have to say, A minus, B plus, getting a good player for very low price tag that can help your defense right now. Right now, I don't see too many downsides with making this move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, just some final thoughts here before we say goodbye for this breaking news edition of Steelers Talk. I think that Duggar's somebody that obviously can help you out in the short term while DeShon Elliott is on IR with that hyperextended knee. I think he immediately plugs in as your starting strong safety. Now, a question that I do have is, what happens to the free safety position? Are you planning on putting Jabril Peppers, another 217-pounder, out there at free safety? Are you planning on eventually getting Derek Forrest ramped up to play free safety? Like, what exactly is the plan here? Are you planning on playing more split safety stuff? Because I don't really see Jabril Peppers or Kyle Duggar playing a true free safety role. But, the Steelers do play a lot of split safety stuff, but they also play a lot of true single high safety stuff as well. So do they just trust Jabril Peppers to play that role? Are they going to, continue to not give Peppers any snaps on defense and they're just going to play Duggar at strong safety? Like, there are legitimate questions here when it comes to this deal. And then another thing to keep in mind is that Duggar's under contract for not 1, but 2 more years after this year, and he's got a pretty hefty price tag. So unless Duggar balls the F out this year, I think that he probably gets cut next offseason regardless because he doesn't have any more guaranteed money on his deal. But just keep that in mind where this is a player that's under contract for a couple more seasons after this year. So maybe the Steelers have, an open mind to keeping him long term. He's still, he's 29 years old, so he's getting up there in age. And, for an athletic player like this, you can certainly see some regression physically coming on the horizon, especially at the price tag that he's at right now. But overall, I think it's a good short-term move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it makes this team better. And for the price tag, I think it's a pretty darn good value for Steelers GM Omar Khan. All right, that'll be it for today's breaking news edition of Steelers Talk. I'm going to have more color and more context and more numbers to kind of back up everything. This is a true breaking news situation. We're getting information to you guys as soon as possible. So tomorrow we'll probably have more information on this trade and kind of what the role could potentially be, all these different things, my full scouting report. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. That video, I think, will probably come out tomorrow morning. So I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button because if the con artist strikes again, we're going to be back here with another video. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, here we go, Steelers. All right, so we'll get to your questions. And Ponzi has been thrown into the fire here over the last 30 minutes or so. Ponzi, get on screen here, and let's talk about this trade a little bit. I think it's an interesting move. I don't think –
honestly, I wasn't expecting this.
I wasn't really expecting it, especially after the Derek Forrest signing today.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that, the plan was going to be okay. And we've talked about it in my preview, and I'm going to have to completely fucking change my preview now.
And everything.
God, dude, we're going to have to throw out the first two segments here. Did you let whoever's highlight cutting know?
Yes, I got it.
Great. Who's got it? Colin's got it. Perfect. Okay. So that breaking news cut will be up on the channel shortly here, folks. So thank you guys so much for bearing with us here. But it's kind of weird because Duggar and Peppers have coexisted in a defense before, and very successfully, I might add.
They've been really good.
And they were really good. And I will say that the Steelers' defense resembles a Belichick-style defense that they played in a lot more than what Vrabel's running in New England right now.
And I think it's honestly the perfect fit, and it's really funny how the Patriots ended up with Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers at the beginning of the season.
Right.
And now the Steelers have basically swapped the safeties.
And listen, man, it's been a complete overhaul of the safety room today. You bring in a guy that's more of like a true free safety in Derek Forrest.
Yeah.
And then you bring in a guy in Kyle Duggar who's more of, a thumper and a little bit more in terms of like bigger, almost like hybrid linebacker type of guy. And, I kind of view Jabril Peppers in that kind of same way. He's also a good tackler. He's also a bigger guy. They're like the same size, 217 pounds, and they're both athletic dudes. Both are getting a little bit older, and I'm sure New England wanted to, embrace the youth movement that they got going on right now. But
they're gearing up for something because they just made a couple moves to clear up cap.
Yeah, they might be trying to trade for Jacoby Myers here and lock him down for a couple more seasons.
Yeah.
That could be a possibility. All right, let's get back to these super chats here. The only key we'll stay live as long as you guys keep super chatting. So as long as you guys got questions, all that stuff. We got 355 people watching live right now. It says Kyle Duggar and Peppers duo.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the plan.
I think so too. It just makes sense. There's chemistry there, and they run a different style of safety where you can move both of them around.
Yes, and you can do a lot of different disguises with these guys. That's exactly what Belichick did in New England for all those years.
Yeah.
And if you want to run kind of this like split safety system where you use your safeties in run fits a lot of the time, both these guys can run defend, and then you got Jalen Ramsey on the outside.
And that's kind of dangerous.
So that's if you're trying to stop Jonathan Taylor this week, you're trying to really solidify this run defense the rest of the way. This could be a safety duo that could get that job done. And obviously these guys have shared a secondary in the past, and with the Patriots. And it was very fruitful. They were a very good safety duo for multiple years in New England.
And obviously they're a little bit older.
Yeah,
I think they have
that's the downside of
this.
And that's the downside of this duo. And then eventually when you get DeShon Elliott back, you can use Duggar as more of like a hybrid linebacker, almost like a coverage linebacker.
Yeah, I really like this next one from Taco Man.
Taco Man with the 5 says, I think it means that third downs and obvious passing downs, Duggar replaces Queen in the box to play with Wilson, and Ramsey shifts to free safety and Eccles in. Yeah, it could be. Like that could be something that does work. And then when Elliott comes back, you don't even shift Eccles in. Like Eccles might just be your starting outside corner.
Yeah, and you would have basically Ramsey, Wilson, Duggar, maybe Peppers on there too.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of interesting possibilities with this.
There's a lot of
and then Derek Forrest, who I think is a pretty decent player when he's healthy, is in this mix now. Don't hate that at all. Maybe Derek is like, well, maybe I don't want to be a part of this team now. I don't know. We'll have to see on him. He's having a hard time finding work, but I think he played pretty darn well for the Commanders, and I think he's got a chance to be a pretty decent player. $5 from It's Juju says, do you think TJ is not who he used to be watching this year's film, or do you think QBs are just getting the ball out quick and he's tired sometimes? I would say more the second than the first, okay?
Yeah.
Like there are examples on film where like the old TJ is still very much there. I just think that teams, they know how to guard him, which is to chip him on the outside. And when you give him chip help, he's not much of like a true power rusher. He's got some power to his game, but he likes to win on the outside. That's how he wins. That's how he's always won.
A lot of speed there, too.
And they are getting the ball out fast. That's a big part of it. It's Juju. Like, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I have the graphic up of the average time to throw if you want that.
What's that?
The average time to throw if you want to see that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can throw it up there as B-roll, whatever. But, these defenses, or these offenses, I should say, are just getting the ball out super fast, man. They just are. And it just negates the pass rush. Everybody's numbers are down in the pass rush, all right? When Herbig's been out there, he's been the most productive, but his numbers, I think could be even better if these quarterbacks were holding it longer. You got Highsmith's numbers are down. TJ's numbers are down. Cam's numbers are down. It's not because those players stink. Those players are really good on film. It's more about, these quarterbacks where they're getting the ball out really fast, man. I mean, Jordan Love last week had a 2.64 average time to throw. If that was for the entire season, that would be second fastest in the league. That's just to put in perspective where we're at right here. And like Dylan Gabriel had a faster average time to throw than him. Drake May did as well. Like Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco had it under 2.5 seconds. Like that is a ridiculous number right there. And the fact that Mike Tomlin had the audacity to stand up there today and say, there's nothing that we can do schematically to stop this. They just do it. This has been our life for many seasons. No, it hasn't. It hasn't been this fast. Okay, and I know Tomlin likes to say stats are for losers, but like the film doesn't lie, dude. Like they're gashing you. They're gashing you to the short and intermediate levels of the field. And obviously, it's exciting to add a new player here in Kyle Duggar, but I'm just going to point out, if the scheme doesn't change, we're still fucked.
I mean, it's not – I feel like more so we've been kind of, banging on this desk for long enough about, like, it's not really the personnel, it's the scheme. You can move people around here.
Well, it's a little bit on the personnel.
I mean –
it's a little bit on the personnel.
If getting the right people out there. And I feel like, you can have guys like, Darius Slay play man, but you're not going to win on those reps a lot. Mm-hmm. Just because Darius Slay isn't who he once was. Jalen Ramsey isn't who he once was. Get these guys, playing zone and getting their eyes on the quarterback, using their smartness, or using their intelligence, rather, and, doing better in the positions where putting your players in positions to succeed. And I feel like, Tomlin hasn't really been doing that. We really have seen really this defense where we hyped them up, at the beginning of the season, fail because of that.
Exactly. Next super chat here, Bernard says, do you still think the Steelers can win 11 games? I think it's possible. It's not impossible, but they obviously, in order to do that, Bernard, they're going to have to turn it around on defense, and they're going to have to do it quickly if they want to get to that 11-game mark. Like, listen, man, if this defense turns it around, they even play top 15 level ball. Like, I'm not even asking for top 5. I'm not asking for elite production. I'm asking for good enough, okay? If they're good enough, I think they certainly get to 10 wins. And, if this defense can play in a top 10 level, it's going to be really tough to play the Steelers because they can run the football. They score points in the red zone. They don't turn the football over that much on offense. And then, if the defense can turn it around, start creating more turnovers, stopping the ball, not giving up so many yards and so many plays in a given game.
Man, right when we're about to get out.
Okay. Yeah, man, just when we're about to get out. Bernard with another one.
He has another one. I'm trying to get it. He has a couple more.
Sure, you guys get your super chats in. We'll stay live as long as you guys have questions, as long as you guys got comments. If you guys are missing the breaking news, Kyle Duggar is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Steelers send a 6th-round pick in exchange for a 7th-round pick and Duggar. I think it's good value for a player that obviously is going to be the DeShon Elliott replacement, at least for now, and could be a potential hybrid third safety / linebacker for passing situations. And, if this is the Steelers' way of saying we got to get Patrick Queen off the field in passing situations because he's been a liability, which he frankly has been in pass coverage, I'm honestly okay with that. I am.
I didn't even really consider that angle. I was just kind of using him as that Queen replacement there.
Yeah, and, even, with Derek Forrest, right, you're bringing him in here, you could think about even doing that now, where you could put Forrest at free safety, have on third downs Duggar playing in the box, as almost like a hybrid linebacker replacing Queen, and then you have Jabril Peppers playing another, the other safety spot.
On paper, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and you could put Ramsey in that spot, right? And then you could put Echols on the field on those passing situations. But I kind of feel like where we're trending is Joey Porter Jr. and Brandon Echols will be the outside corners. Jalen Ramsey will be the nickel. What's up, Coley? Is it out? Thanks, Beast. Captain Coley, ladies and gentlemen. He's a fucking legend, staying late to help us out. No, I think we're good. Thanks, man. Okay.
We film more segments, though.
Yeah, exactly. Bernard says, A-Rod always has bad defenses feel bad for him. Yeah, he always does, man.
Does.
He always does. He had a bad defense last year. He always had bad defenses in Green Bay. The
1 year that he had a good defense.
The 1 year where he thought he was going to be able to come in, score 16 points, and be able to win ball games. It just hasn't been the case.
Or even when he first got traded to the Jets, they had a great defense that year.
Yeah, he probably thought these last two spots, he was like, man, this defense is great, but not so much. $2 from D'Lo. What's up, D'Lo? Says, we would be in the Super Bowl if Andy Reid was head coach. I mean, maybe. I mean, who's the defensive coordinator? Because Reid's not calling defensive plays. If Spags is calling the defense,
that's good.
Yes, we would be going to the Super Bowl if we had Andy Reid.
Spags going to be considered a head coach candidate?
I don't know.
I feel like
he was it's just some guys are coordinators, and that's okay.
I feel like that's okay. Even like Cliff Kingsbury.
Josh McDaniels, really good coordinator, not a head coach, right? So those guys exist, and I think the league has kind of accepted that that's what Spags is at this point. Appreciate you guys. Do we have any more? I feel like we had some before the Duggar trade went through.
I mean, I could see.
I want to say we had some. We were gonna hit some before the Duggar trade hit, and then we had to shift to breaking news.
We already got.
Oh, Hector says, last one. What's going on with our pass rush edge? They're playing TJ too much. They're playing him 93% of the snaps, and he's getting gassed by the end of the game. And I think their mentality is, we're paying you $41 million per season. You're going to play every snap that you can. And I think TJ wants to be out there, but you got another excellent edge rusher sitting on your bench for a large majority of the game, and Nick Herbig, who has frankly been the most productive edge rusher on your team. And that includes the $41 million per season guy. So I think what you need to do is you got to keep these guys fresh. Get a three-way starting rotation going because they've all earned it. They're all really good players. And I think the way you kind of handle that is you try and tailor it so that TJ's on the field more for early downs, Herbig is more on the field for later downs, and you just find a way to kind of, shift these guys in and out.
Get them fresh.
And keep them fresh throughout the game and throughout the season. The only key with the fives is I bet the Colts are laughing at us in the film room. Unfortunately, I think that's probably the case. Yes, the Steelers in the
Shane
film.
Steichen.
And by the way, that's why you go out and make a move here in the defense for Kyle Duggar, right?
You think he can ramp up now?
We'll see. We'll see if he gets ramped up in time. It took Peppers 2 weeks to get ramped up. Remember, they signed him in week. They signed him after Elliott got injured in week 1. They signed him in week 2. He didn't play until week 3.
Both Elliott injuries have corresponded with getting a former Patriot safety.
Yeah, but the fact that you signed you acquire two different safeties today, it does not bode well. Either Chuck Clark or Juan Thornhill, their ass is out of here, man. I'm telling you. $2 from Bernard says, do you think A-Rod at 41 is outplaying Favre at 40? I'd have to look at the numbers at this point, but they're both playing really good. Favre was playing at almost an MVP level in Minnesota that year.
Well, I feel also.
Or was Favre 40 his first year in Minnesota, or did he turn 30 his second year? Because in the second year he was bad.
Let's see if I can find Brett Favre's stats real quick. Brett Favre, looking up on the internet, it's very dangerous. By the way,
it's not like the answer to this question really matters.
Yeah,
it's not like it really matters who was better. All I care about is that Aaron's playing well.
He turned 40 when he went to Minnesota.
Okay.
Put up 4,000 passing yards, 33 touchdowns. Actually, very fun fact, in this one season in 2009, he had his lowest interceptions in his entire career when he was a full-time starter.
Yeah, I would probably say Favre played better. I would say Favre. I would have, as someone that watched a lot of Brett Favre, growing up. I would say Favre probably was playing better that one season in Minnesota than A-Rod is right now.
But I feel like it's also two different
But then again,
offenses.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't have Adrian Peterson. You know what I'm saying?
I love Jaylen Warren. He ain't no AP.
Yeah, Warren's a great back. Adrian Peterson is probably the greatest I've ever seen, to be quite honest with you. So I would take Favre, Bernard, but that's not to say to me, I thought Favre should have won MVP that year. He was unbelievable for that Vikings team. So he finished second in MVP that year. So I don't think A-Rod's playing quite at that level. Yeah, exactly. So A-Rod I don't think is playing at quite that level, but I'm certainly happy with what Rodgers is providing here in Pittsburgh. Is that the last question?
Yep.
All right. Well, we still got 350 people watching, but we're going to wrap it up here, guys. We've been live for quite a while. It's already past 7 o'clock here on the Central Time Zone. It's even later on the East Coast. So I just want to thank you guys so much for sticking with us here through our breaking news coverage. We're going to have another video come out tomorrow. We'll probably
to everything.
We'll probably provide some more color to the Kyle Duggar move. As well as talk about a little bit of the Derek Forrest move, talk a little bit about what Tomlin had to say today, because obviously we have to trash that first segment today.
And even the second one.
And we're going to have to refilm preview tomorrow as well. All right, man. That's going to be it for today's show, guys. I appreciate all of you guys stopping by here today. Again, next time we'll be live is on Thursday, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button. We'll have another video come out tomorrow, probably around lunchtime, breaking down Kyle Duggar's profile and all the latest surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. So until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.